Waiting right now. Literally waiting right now. Oh, hello.
You're live right now. You're literally live right now. Cause the people have heard it said, tick-tocketh, time to rocketh.
Powerful.
Oh, people, someone thinks they figured out the problem. AP does not have a working clock. Huh.
I do have a clock in here that is not working. That is indeed correct. Because I didn't get around to changing the batteries, and I think it's been like this for a year or so. Yeah.
Because I use that clock to beat my cricket to death.
Yes.
Oh, look what we got here. Michael James says, Qatar is paying AP to be late to hide the truth. That would be interesting if we went down the Candace Owens road where everything's a conspiracy. Then we'd be like, how do we explain AP's lateness? Not by just saying he's Turkish. No. It's a conspiracy. He's being paid. He's being paid by Qatar. That's how you do it.
Qatars.
We should start doing that. We should. People did it with Ireland. We should just do it with Qatar.
Oh, with Ireland, it is true. I mean, it is an undeniable fact that the Irish have basically occupied the United States government and have a heavy stranglehold on the government, which is why we are. It's not America first; it's Irish first. Nothing we do serves our own purpose and our own goal and our own good. We are basically just serving the Irish because everything is owned by the Irish.
Guys, you can actually look up how many U.S. politicians are part Irish.
Yeah.
How many of them eat Frosted Lucky Charms for breakfast? How many of them drink whiskey? And it's very disturbing. The stranglehold Ireland has on the United States of America. We've basically been bought and paid for.
We are being controlled by the Irish. If you want to find out who rules over you, look at who you can't criticize.
Yeah, and as soon as we start making fun of the Irish and talking about their leprechauns and their pot of gold, and then everyone flips out and starts screaming racist.
Yeah, and they come to our door and want to kill us.
Yep, it is disturbing. The Irish mafia basically shows up and silences you in one way or another. It's sad. It's sad. But we're not scared of speaking the truth here, ladies and gentlemen.
We're brave, we're strong.
So we all know that the Irish control what we speak, but there's another group. You heard of this place, Qatar? I actually listened to a thing of pronunciations of Qatar, and there are a bunch of acceptable pronunciations. Theirs is like or some crap like that. But it's different groups of people in different nations have different pronunciations of it because they can't pronounce the real one. And so the most common English version is Qatar. People just say Qatar.
Yeah, well, the original Arabic is just Qatar. And since we don't have the sound in any other language, by which I'm exaggerating, the q sound, it gets so difficult.
Hey, it's interesting. That's been that way for a while, like a long time. Where did I read that at? I mean their name. So Roman writer documented So you're talking first century. In the first century, a Roman writer documented the earliest account. Wait, let me go back to when human habitation dates back to 50,000 years ago. Settlements and tools dating back to the Stone Age have been unearthed. 50,000 years. They had 50,000 years.
That's, of course, what they would say, considering that the Earth is 3,000 years old only. So.
Mesopotamian artifacts originating 6,500 to 3,800 BC have discovered have been discovered in abandoned coastal settlements. This place goes way back. I guess it makes sense that because it's basically a desert, so things usually survive pretty well in deserts. But a Roman writer documented the earliest account pertaining to the inhabitants of the peninsula around the mid-1st century AD, referring to them as the Qatari. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
They've got a name that goes way back, the Qatari, a designation that may have derived from the name of a prominent local settlement. A century later, Ptolemy produced the first known map to depict the peninsula, referring to it. A map. You see, even back then, people were attracted to minors. This is the proof. It didn't come just from Muhammad. It was always been true. You see, this is the proof. So in the 2nd century, referred to it as Qatar. Noticing a pattern?
What about we just call it gutter?
Gutter.
Gutter, like the gutter, like it might have.
That's actually one of the pronunciations. Look, check it out. So the term Qatara, inhabitants, Qatarai, was exclusively used until the 18th century, after which Qatara emerged as the most commonly recognized spelling. Eventually, and here's where you're right, eventually, after several variations, Qatar, Qatar, and Gutter, the modern derivative Qatar, was adopted as the country's name. So anyway, they came up with multiple variations, and yes, gutter is one of them. Welcome to the gutter, ladies and gentlemen. The gutter.
The gutter. Powerful.
This is powerful stuff. AP, did you get a clock for Christmas?
No. How dare you? The clocks are blasphemy.
There you go. His clock is not broken. It's Turkish.
That's true.
It's the perfect. It's the perfect clock for the Turkish. So anyway, AP.
Yes.
Visegrad. I looked up what that meant. It means citadel. Do you know that?
I just know that it's an old city in Hungary, and then it developed into a whole political important thing.
Whatever. Yeah, the meaning of the word is citadel, and it became adopted as a place, and now it's adopted as an alliance between four countries. I think it's Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary.
Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore.
What?
It's Poland and Czech Republic, yeah, or Czechia.
What the heck is the difference, man? Czech
Republic.
Oh, say it right. Say it right. Don't say Czechoslovakia.
Next,
Okay.
you're going to say Yugoslavia.
Oh, wait, but there's Slovakia.
Yes. Yes. They used to be together. Now they're separate.
So check this out. The Visegrad group, known as the Visegrad Four, or the V4, is a cultural and political alliance of four Central European countries: the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. The alliance aims to advance cooperation in military, economic, cultural, and energy affairs, and to further their integration with the EU. All four states are also members of the European Union, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the Bucharest Nine. So these guys love joining multiple organizations. So guys, these are the countries on the big countries over there in Eastern Europe. As far as I know, there's no connection with Visegrad, the news agency, except the name, because they apparently like the name Citadel, a name which means citadel.
Citadel.
So as far as we know, there's no connection to this Visegrad group, right?
That's what you say.
That's what you say. No, USA, 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 USA. Guys, we're going to be talking about Qatar because I've seen just in multiple places over the past month or so, just people putting up lists of the biggest foreign investors in American universities. Qatar is always at the top. I'm going to keep switching because I've heard them both multiple times over the past day. They're at the top. They're at the top, sending massive donations to U.S. universities. And I would normally think, well, that's good. Apparently, there are strings attached. There are strings attached, and that this is one of the things that's affecting what's happening on campuses as far as the protesters and them being massively anti-Semitic. It's all connected. And when you look at how much money this tiny little nation, this tiny little nation has spent in under 20 years, and how much they've purchased around the world, US, UK, across Europe, how many mosques they've funded. And here's the thing, they'll also fund mosques, right? They'll fund the construction of mosques or buying places for mosques, but then as a condition, they get to say who runs the mosque, right? They get some say in who the imam is. Why is this problematic? Qatar is best buddies with the Muslim Brotherhood. This is interesting stuff. And that's why why did I title it? Like, are these guys more dangerous than Iran? I'm always more concerned with someone who is slick and smart about what they're doing than I am about, Iran. We're just going to pay everyone, all these foreign terrorist groups to blow you up. Okay, you're going to do a lot of damage really quickly like that, but people will catch on and people will eventually crush you. Like, the more obviously dangerous you are, the quicker people will be to jump on you, right? So, like, when ISIS comes out and just starts, and their videos are posted all over the planet. People took notice very, very quickly. Iran got their hands in all sorts of terrorist activities around the world. Qatar, they're Muslim Brotherhood, but they're just, what? Don't look at us, man. We're just buying your universities and paying for buying up all your businesses and stuff, man. It's just some friendly investments with conditions.
It's all good, bro. It's all good. Qatar does have this thing, and Western people haven't paid attention to this very much, but Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and several other groups have been greatly investing in Western universities, Western schools, Western mosques, and so on. And some of them try to influence certain areas more so than others. And Qatar has been has been sleeky and sly in trying to improve or trying to increase Islamic influence, specifically their Islamic influence, Muslim Brotherhood connections, and so on. While Saudi Arabia is kind of has been on the other side of things, trying to push this Salafi Islamic influence that is cancerous in and of itself. And then there is Iran. The thing is, we are paying attention to Iran because Iran is crazy and because Iran is very much disliked and alone in the Middle East. Nobody likes Iran in the Middle East. Everybody hates Iran. Everybody sees Iran as this troublemaker. They only start supporting or temporarily rallying behind Iran when Iran is fighting Israel. Other than that, everyone sees them as a cancer, and they don't want Iran to even exist because it is a Shia troublemaker that wants to destroy and establish its own dominance, and it's also an apocalyptic cult. The government of Iran, literally, the government of Iran is all built on leading with Shia Islamic law and working toward bringing about the Mahdi, the savior who has been hiding. You're hiding, boy.
You're hiding.
They're going to together straighten out the rest of the evil Muslims and then correct the rest of the world and create massacres and all that, which is why Iran is crazy and they stick out. But Qatar has been quietly doing a lot of bad things over here.
And as I said, I view that as more problematic. So Iran, more obviously dangerous and therefore easier to spot. You can spot them. You can spot the danger instantly. Qatar, people just don't see it. They don't see it. So meanwhile, they're just taking more and more control over everything around the entire world. So again, guys, they're doing massive funding of mosque building and controlling the local Muslim population. They're buying up businesses. They're sending massive donations to U.S. universities and insisting on some things in return. some things in return. And that's more just like diabolically brilliant, right? I mean, you're getting a say. You're getting a say in what college students are hearing.
Yeah.
Let me just pull up a map so everyone knows what we're talking about.
Just going to pull up Daniel Kikichu.
CA. Let me pull up a map. Darn, why didn't I think of that? Let me pull up a map. Picture of Daniel Kikichu pops up. But CA here says Clandace is bought by Qatar. You see? And that's, keep in mind, that's think about this. Candace Owens. I mean, just imagine what she would say if she were focused on Qatar doing all the stuff it's doing right now. Wild, wild stuff. But you know what I liked about Qatar, AP? And so here's a map of the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen. Notice you got that giant carapole up top, Turkey, right? Then you have Iran. We're familiar with Iran. Look at Iran. Big place. You got Egypt all the way over there on the left. You got Saudi Arabia in the middle at the bottom. And off towards the right of Saudi Arabia, right there on the Persian Gulf, there's this little tiny peninsula, Qatar. And I like that little peninsula because it looks like Saudi Arabia whipped it out and started peeing across the Persian Gulf on Iran. That's what it looks like.
What they do.
That's what that little tiny country looks like. It looks like Saudi Arabia. It looks like, look, Saudi Arabia, we pee on Iran with Qatar. Qatar is the name of our wiener, you see. We should start. Since Qatar looks like a pee-pee going pee-pee on Iran, we should start using that.
We shall.
We should start using that as slang for pee-pee. All right, so guys, that little tiny place, we're gonna check it out. These guys are actually controlling a lot. They are controlling a disproportionate amount of the world right now compared to the tiny little country. And it's like so many other places in the Middle East would not have a lot right now, but they just happen to be on an ocean of oil and natural gas. And they can pump all that stuff out. They're right there on the Persian Gulf, and there's an ocean of it underneath the water in the Persian Gulf. And so they can just dig down in their own country, and they're getting that good oil that's flooding in there from under the Persian Gulf. Lots of money. Big bucks. And I have to say, I mean, as evil as they are, because we know their intentions, we know that they're actually doing. Pretty smart with their money, I have to say. They're just pretty smart with their money. They're not wasteful with their money. And then they're doing things like making sure that they get like the World Cup and big sporting events and all kinds of things. Smart. Everyone loves Qatar. And it's something like they're only like 300,000 citizens in the country, even though they have millions of people there. They're only like 300,000 actual citizens of Qatar. The rest are like workers and stuff like that they bring in. So you're talking like a population of a couple million, but only 300,000 of them are Qatari citizens. The others are like hired workers and so on. So interesting stuff. Let's take these first couple super chats, and then we will check out a video by Visegrad where they put some stuff together, and then we'll look at a couple of other issues. We'll look at some of the things they're funding and so on. Let's see. Qatar is a key member of the World Economic Forum, has power at the UN, and is a CCP ally. So, yeah, in my honest opinion, much more dangerous than Iran. Merry Christmas.
Nice.
Very nice. If Momo...
World Economic Forum is based.
Super based. If Momo heard Merry Christmas, he would ask how old she is.
Nice.
Hey Rick, did you come up with that, or did you hear it from somewhere else? Because I want to steal that. I'll keep that in my pocket for next year, and then steal that. But I don't know if it's like already popular, and I just never heard it. And then people will be like, "Come on, David, we've heard this before."
It's pretty good though.
Yeah, it is. That'd be a good little cartoon. Merry Christmas. Oh wait, No, you could also do that with a Dawa guy, like a picture of Ali Dawa. You know how people set up the picture so it looks like there's a conversation? You know, someone would say, Merry Christmas. And then Ali Dawa goes, what? How old is she? That'd be good. Do that. Ottoman conquered Visegrad. Now Kufar occupy.
Yes, that's how it happens.
Ottoman.
That's what they do.
What's that hadith that says Allah's mercy is the fact that he places the sins of Muslims on Christians and Jews? You mentioned it in a stream once. I'll just give you my video where I go through those in it's Sahih. It's easy to remember. It's easy to remember because it's Sahih Muslim 6665 6666 6667 6668. That's the section of Sahih al-Bukhari. My video is called Who pays for your sins in Islam? Who pays for your sins in Islam? According to Muhammad, Jews and Christians pay for your sins. So you can check out that video. Got the sources on the screen. So let's see. Hope that helps. Very important issue to bring up. And guys, I brought this up in debates and so on, and Muslims don't really have a response to it. The only people who could really make sense of it would be hadith deniers who just say, nope, that doesn't make any sense. So we're rejecting that hadith. It doesn't line up with Islamic theology. But you've got multiple Sahih narrations in Sahih Muslim. So kind of hard to scratch that one.
If I was a Muslim and somebody brought that up to me, I would say that's based.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what you should do. D. Wood for president of Qatar. Make Qatar great again. AP for president of, what is that? Like a little green thing.
Saudi Arabia.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
That's pretty racist. Right?
Did you guys see Bear Grylls called Mary and Jesus Palestinian? Bro even called Mary Miriam. What a balding British buffoon. Yeah, that was pretty lame. You know Bear Grylls? You don't know Bear Grylls? At the time, he was like the youngest. He was British Special Forces. He was at one time, like I think, the youngest guy to scale Mount Everest. It was that record was later.
Oh, that's that guy. Okay,
yeah, he's a survivalist. He's a survivalist. So you could toss him out. You could toss him out in the middle of nowhere, and he'll just find a way to survive.
Okay, I saw his tweet about it.
It was pretty stupid. You got it. You want to read his tweet for everyone so we know what we're talking about?
Let's see. I don't even know which one it is. Over the next days, billions of us around the world. Is this it?
No, it was this Christmas one where he said, Mary and Jesus, they were Palestinian.
Okay, I'm reading it now. So apparently this is it, I guess. Happy Christmas. Over the next few days.
Isn't it dumb however they say Happy Christmas instead of Merry Christmas?
Yeah, it's pretty gay. Over the next few days, billions of us around the world celebrate God come to earth as a baby, born to live amongst us. He grew up as an impoverished Middle Eastern refugee some 2,000 years ago. Yet this Jesus, Yeshua, changed the course of the world forever. Let me tell you some of his story. This is just a short extract from near the beginning of the adventure, when Maryam, a young, poor, no doubt terrified girl living in first century Palestine, gives birth in a rundown animal pen to a baby.
Hey, Fee, where's first century Palestine?
The
Romans didn't give it that name till the 2nd century as an insult to Jews.
That's true. A baby who was foretold for hundreds of years, yet she was not alone, and she never would be, because this was the moment that God Almighty broke into our fallen world in person. Anyway, it continues like this. Is there anything else here? But he says that he was a refugee.
This sounds like a really long tweet.
I know there's a follow-up tweet as well. I refer to this area as Palestine as per the maps you will find in most Bibles. I refer to Palestine as the general area that Mary lived in. I'm not referring to her nationality or ethnicity. She was clearly Jewish. Okay, so then why did you mention Palestine?
Because Palestine.
And plus, why is he referring to Jesus as a refugee?
Because he's Palestinian.
A refugee. He wasn't a refugee in the land. I don't even understand this whole thing here. And I don't have an issue with him calling her Maryam, because that is pretty much in line with the original,
Mm-hmm.
with the Hebrew
Yeah.
name.
Mm-hmm.
In Hebrew name, Mary would be Maryam.
Hey, wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if he responded like one of the Dawa guys, and so you're like, "Hey, Bear Grylls, what do you mean by this? This sounds kind of weird. What do you mean by Palestinian?" He's like, "Look, why don't you they drop both of us in the middle of the Sahara right now, and we'll see who knows how to survive, and then you will see I'm right."
Yeah, you see.
Qatar hosts Muslim Brotherhood, Taliban supported radical Islamists and jihadis in Europe, and Erdogan and U.S. needs to count Qatar responsible for October 7th. That's interesting. Did Qatar have any hand, as far as we know, in October 7th? I know Iran did.
Yes,
They
they
did.
did.
Ooh,
They did.
what?
Qatar has been the main source of income of Hamas for many decades, under the excuse that they're just forwarding humanitarian aid to Hamas so that they can serve it to their civilian population and all that. And Israel, while checking much of what Hamas does with the money, did allow Qatari funds to go into Gaza, because the idea was, if that happens, it will pacify Hamas and prevent terrorist attacks from intensifying. But then October 7th happened.
Yeah. And guys, again, that's the rough part, because you can find out a country's doing all sorts of things, but you're like, but they're sending so much money to schools. Yeah, they are. And there are strings attached. The other Randy said, Bear Grylls survived at the nearest 5-star hotel to those sites. Since you're not too familiar with AP, you probably don't remember. So he had he had his show. He had his show. I forget what it's called. I know the other guy was Survivor Man. He was more laid back. He would just, like, wherever he got dropped off, he would survive. He would just stay in that. He would just kind of stay, and I guess the goal was to like stay there for 5 days or something like that, and wherever he was. Whereas Bear Grylls, it was more action packed, because wherever they dropped him, he would try to get back to civilization. Anyway, he would build a shelter, and it would show him going to sleep, and then it would show him waking up. But what they wouldn't show, and this got exposed later, is like he would actually just be going to nice hotels and stuff overnight. So he built a shelter, and he okay, cut. All right, let's go to the hotel. So he wasn't doing all this stuff that he was supposedly doing.
Oh, wait a minute.
What?
I didn't. Okay, apparently his original tweet was different. He deleted his original tweet.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
He deleted his original tweet. What was that? His original tweet, which he deleted after being corrected per community notes, says, "Happy Christmas in these next few days." Okay,
Is this one way shorter?
It just says, this is a short extract from near the beginning of the adventure when Maryam, a young, poor, and no doubt terrified Palestinian girl.
AP.
He deleted that part and wrote it again without the Palestinian.
AP, if you were to go to Mary and say, hey, you're Palestinian, would she have any clue what you're talking about?
Most likely she would have no idea at all.
No clue. So, guys, the Palestine was an offensive name given to the area, named after the Philistines, enemies of Israel. After the 2nd century Jewish rebellion, the Romans came in there, completely crushed them, deported them, sent them all over the place, and in order to just completely destroy their national identity, just rename the place.
Powerful. Jews have consistently referred to the place as Israel, as land of Israel. They never adopted the naming of Palestine, except that they used it here and there to in international correspondence when talking about the land to make it easier. Especially the secular population adopted the naming of Palestine and referred to the place as Palestine because that's what the Romans named it, and that's what came to be known as the region's name in Western culture because of the Romans. So, for example, when Theodor Herzl wrote his proposal to reestablish the Jewish state, he referred to the place as Palestine, and So that came to be used. However, Jews referred to the place for over 2,000 years, for 3,000 years, as Israel, as land of Israel. And that never changed.
Hey, you see, who was that? Was that Kim Iverson was saying, no, that was someone else. No, it was you had your discussion with Kim Iverson. Then some other chick was saying that Jesus couldn't have been a Jew because the modern word Jew didn't come out till like the 1700s. Because before that, the J was an I, right? The J was an I, right? And so I responded to her just in a comment, but I just said, following your reasoning that Jews did not exist before the 1700s because it was spelled in English, it was spelled with an I back then instead of a J. I said, following your reasoning, Jesus didn't exist either because Jesus in Bibles from like the original King James Bible also spelled Jesus with an I.
Yeah.
And therefore, Jesus didn't exist.
They do this stupid thing. I mean, Kim Iverson is the one who repeatedly goes on there and says, "Oh, Jesus was not a Jew, and I can prove it." And then whenever somebody challenges her, she suddenly disappears. She said, "I will debate this with anyone, anytime."
And you said, I
challenged her, and my inspiring philosophy, Michael Jones, also challenged her. She ignored both of us so far. But I keep texting her, and also I will post every day now from now on, day so and so.
Yeah, day 77, waiting for Kim Iverson to debate like she said she would.
And she referenced that other woman who made that long post, which is just completely ahistorical nonsense, which says that Jesus was only referred to as a Jew at around 1775. Before that, no Bible ever referred to him as a Jew. And the thing is, it's just so dumb.
They just spelled it differently. They spelled it differently. And since there's a spelling change, and that happens over time, since there was a spelling change, therefore Jews were invented as a people when there was a spelling change. When the spelling change.
Even the spelling, even a J was even used for that long before.
I saw you found one in like the Wycliffe Bible or something like that.
Yeah, the John Wycliffe Bible has Jews, but they pronounce it as like a kind of a mix of like a U is like a yay and J sound in the middle of it. But that was in the 1300s. 1386 or 87, that's when it was in John 4:22 is directly translated there in that Bible as ye worshipen that ye knowen not, we worshipen that we knowen, for health is of the Jews. Mm-hmm. That's 4:22 in 1387. These people are talking complete garbage.
The problem is it's the same thing that I talk about when I talk about the Islam's 99-1 rule, where you'll have someone like Zakir Naik, and he knows that if he says something, 99% of the people are going to mindlessly agree with him, and less than 1% are actually going to question it. And so if that's the situation, it's in your best interest to keep spouting complete nonsense, because you can build a bigger and bigger mob, which can ultimately silence or drown out the people who actually look up what you're saying and know that it's false. Well, something similar is going on now. A lot of accounts on social media that they can just spout complete nonsense, and people will correct them, but most people aren't even reading the corrections. They're not reading that sort of thing. They just, oh my goodness, what? The word Jew was invented in the 1700s. There was no Jews before the 1700s, so Jesus could have been a Jew because there was no Jews. And they run around with that. And it just happens over and over again.
It's the pathetic thing is that Kim Iverson, for her part, she even within just a few hours, she changed her position. Her original point was that nobody referred to Jesus as a Jew until around the Holocaust or something like that. She went from that position just within a few hours to actually after the late 1700s, and then went from that to possibly before, but not in the same sense. And so on. These people are just These people don't know anything. They misrepresent everything that they go into, and still
Well,
they have audiences.
Why don't
Like,
you
people-
debate her then? Why don't you debate her? By the way, guys, this is AP. I've talked about this many times. I've explained what happens when people feel threatened and they start clicking up with groups. But part of the cost, it's just like Qatar. If you're joining the group, that ain't free. That ain't free. You have to demonstrate group loyalty to your group that you cling to, that you join for your protection, because you constantly feel like you're being attacked. And once you join that group, how do you demonstrate your worth to the group? How do you show that you're a valuable member of the group? By unquestioningly going along with anything your group says, even if it would take you 5 seconds to know that it's complete nonsense. You can't do that, because then you'll be expelled from the group. They'll say, oh, you're not really one of our group because you're questioning the group, and you don't want to not be part of the group. And so you go along with it. And over time, you just get conditioned. Here's what I'm supposed to believe today, and I cannot question it. And you just roll like that forever. It's very smart. Anyway, Kushner's Gaza Getaway says, talking about Miriam here, she was a poor Irish Palestinian who worked in the potato fields playing bagpipes with leprechauns drunk. That would be the Irish version. All right, a couple of these, and then we're going to jump into this video. Uh-oh, don't let AP near a map. He'll reflexively start redrawing it.
Yes.
Yeah, fortunately, I have the Middle Eastern map on my computer, and so AP can't redraw it.
I would either redraw it or shoot it. Yeah.
Qatar gives 98% of the other Arab nations a bad name. And that's saying something, because they have well-earned bad names. Check the amount of cash Qatar invests in U.S. education. Yeah, we're going to take a look at that. A Turk and a Wingeling. Don't know which is worse. That is tough. That's tough. But I don't know where you're seeing a Wingeling there. Merry Christmas, David. God bless you. Thank you. Pretty sad that you didn't include AP in that blessing, but
thank you.
And can you guys watch the 2-minute Robin Williams jihad video on stream before the year ends? Started asking in Super Chats months ago. Happy Hanukkah. We will check it out.
It says Happy Hanukkah, not Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Oh, yeah. Hanukkah. Put on your yarmulke. It's time for Hanukkah.
Have you seen the Hanukkah joke? Do you know what that is about?
What?
The Syrian girl made this post in which she called it Hanukkah, Hunkah, and said Hanukkah started when the Jews waged the guerrilla war. Something like that. It's so dumb.
Super, super smart. It's hilarious. Right after the Christmas market massacre. Well, not right after it, but like when I first posted something about it, it was after like people are already like, hey, this guy's account, he's an ex-Muslim and so on. So I checked out some of his tweets. He sounded like an ex-Muslim atheist and so on. And I tweeted, how long before Syrian girl says this guy's a Jew? And then she actually responded to me with the proof that the guy's a Jew. I was like, you can't. Gosh. And the proof, and by the way, after that, her fans were all passing it around. The proof he's a Jew, you think? It's because he was mocking Surah 3, I think verse 19, which says the true religion with Allah is Islam. And this guy said, the true religion with Islam is Judaism. He's clearly just mocking the verse to annoy them. And they say, you see, he's a Jew. He's a Jew. Wow. There's a problem when you got people who are desperate to blame everything on the Jews and who don't understand mockery, sarcasm, joking, anything like that. It's the Jews. You see? Let's see. Jesus would teach and preach from the Torah at the synagogues because he was a Muslim, and that's what they do. That's what all Muslims do. They go to synagogues and preach from the Torah. Jesus' family fled to Egypt, so they were refugees. Yeah, AP said they weren't refugees when they're in the land.
Yeah.
Goat Hub says Turks are more physically dangerous, but wingelings poison the soul. That's true.
That's true.
Got to stay away from both as best you can, except Hatun, she's good. She wanted a good ones. Hatun's one of the good ones. That is an interesting point between the Turks and the Wingalings. There is that parallel between, like, Iran on the one hand and Qatar and the different kinds of threats they pose. And Alan here, super sticker, thumbs up, thank you. I don't like your Alan. All right, guys, let's go ahead and check out this video by Visegrad. And it's about Qatar. And guys, there is a link. For some reason, this is not on YouTube. They did not put it on YouTube. They only put it on Twitter because they focus on Twitter. Most of their news is on Twitter. They occasionally post videos on YouTube, but they have a much bigger presence on X. So if you're on X, by all means, there's a link to this video in the description. And so if you like this video we're about to watch, please share it. People need to understand what's going on college campuses and around the world with this little place, a little place that looks like a pee-pee. Pee on Iran.
We should consider political Islam as not fundamentally different from Nazi ideology, fascist ideology, or communist ideology.
Zakat, or alms giving, is one of the 5 pillars of the Islamic faith, whereby Muslims give generously to those in need or to promote good civic works. But while much of the Muslim world remains mired in poverty, Qatar Charity, an NGO based in Doha, has built hundreds of schools, Islamic cultural centers, and mosques in Europe. But is the goodwill of generous Muslims being cynically abused by one of the wealthiest nations on earth to advance the goals of political Islam in the West? What are Qatar's generous goals?
Flagrant one is like building mosques, bringing money from the outside, and actually paying their way into creating all kinds of NGOs that are actually based here and that can access the institutions. This is the institutional infiltration.
In Croatia, they also financed a mosque that was built in the city of Rijeka. This is in some way Islamic colonialism, or they're funding the spread of the Islamic religion.
Qatar is the main source of the money who was used to build a big mosque in Ljubljana. And when I leaded the secret services, we had given a warning that that's not good because
I like this. We're warning. We had to give them warning because there's no free lunch, meaning they're not just doing this for free. But guys, what's interesting here is they're interviewing people from all over the globe. They're interviewing people from all kinds of countries, and people in all kinds of different places are saying the exact same thing. Qatar is flooding our area with money to build mosques and such. Mosques, Islamic schools, and so on. Why is this disturbing? Again, these guys are not connected to some super peaceful version of Islam. This is Muslim Brotherhood stuff. They're connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. Anyway.
There is no free land.
What's that?
There's not really much of a choice. It's all just going to be a bunch of non-peaceful garbage.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Iran. Iran, because they're, as you pointed out, like they're actually nuts. They've got insane leaders, and their only supporters in the country are the most radical groups that want to bring about the end times and so on. And so that makes them very, very dangerous. But you see them coming. It's obvious. It's obvious that they're dangerous. Then you have AP's place, Turkey. Because now, guys, this, what's it called? The Shia Crescent or whatever, that thing's collapsing. The influence of Iran is crumbling. And you might, in the very near future, see Iran as a nation be completely overtaken by the people and the Iranian regime just crushed. Turkey is, in my view, going to start taking the place, but it's going to be a Sunni version of what Iran was doing. But that's kind of local. Like Turkey wants influence over like the Middle East, that area. They want to restore like the Ottoman Empire. Qatar is different in that it's putting its tentacles out into the entire world. It's like, hey, we'll focus on getting the world, buying the rest of the world. Pretty creepy stuff, but let's see.
I'll be right back.
And because of that, I even got some threats with death and real big problems for me and my family. So this just shows that this is a very serious question.
Qatar Charity gains its charitable reputation from the small donations it receives from private individuals, but its major funders are the Qatari royal family, the Qatari Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Qatari Development Fund.
So guys, just to recap there, people donate to what this Qatari fund is doing, but the main backers are the Qatari royal family.
It should come as no surprise that the charity's European goals reflect the ideology of the Qatari state, and its projects align with its close associates, the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda.
So these guys are building the mosque. These guys are funding the mosque in your neighborhood, and this gives them some say over who runs the mosque. They're funding the Islamic school in your neighborhood, and this gives them say over what's being taught there. They're buying up, as we're going to see shortly, buying up huge businesses in Europe and the United States and so on, and sending endless trunks of money to universities, very important universities, and demanding certain things in return. And who are these guys connected to? The Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda. Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to worry about here, ladies and gentlemen.
They dream of doing the Caliphate again, and it's a fact. It's all over the place. We should stop organizing World Cups in Qatar and things like this and giving them stage.
A country barely larger than Corsica, with a population of only 300,000, is systematically transforming European churches into mosques, financing schools and cultural centers which promote political Islam, and backing pro-Islamic lobbying structures such as the European Islamic Union, whose stated objective is to combat Islamophobia, but which also promotes the veiling of women at a European level.
Guys, you catch that? So they're sending endless chunks of money, and you have all these. Have you noticed all these different places around the world? We have to combat Islamophobia. We need a new government agency for combating Islamophobia and stuff. And you wonder, why are they so obsessed with Islamophobia? Follow the money, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the money. You're wondering why this? Why are all these news agencies? Why is everyone just? How come after every terrorist attack carried out in the name of Allah, they say, oh, this is why we have to crack down on Islamophobia. Check where the money comes from. Follow the money trail. Talk about a money trail.
I've said many times that politics is downstream from culture. So if Christianity loses its place in mainstream European culture, something will replace it. And now we have Islam on one hand, and we have internally this new kind of militant secularism that has replaced Christianity, as is causing many problems for Catholics and other Christians who are believers and want to practice their faith. These are the burning issues in Europe.
Yes.
I will not be a politically correct MEP. I will speak openly on these issues.
Dude, what he just said about the militant secularism, there are people who still don't see what's going on. They'll be like, what? Militant secularism? Are you an idiot? I mean, think about this. In the UK, let's say, Muslims can just block a road. They've got a mosque right over there. But they will actually block a road for their daily prayers, and traffic just has to stop. Meanwhile, if you are, he specifically referred to Catholics there. If you're a Catholic and you go down the street, you're down the street on a sidewalk near an abortion clinic. You're not saying a word. You're not holding up a sign. You're not talking to anyone. You're not screaming anything. You're not saying anything. You're just standing there. Police will pull up in front of you and go, are you praying inside your head? Are you silently praying? And as a Christian, you don't want to lie, so you'll probably choose to remain silent and say I may or may not, blah, blah, blah. But if you say yes, then they actually arrest you. They'll arrest you. So keep in mind, a Catholic cannot pray down the street on a sidewalk quietly, not say a word. Muslims can block roads and so on. They're fine. And we saw that. We saw when native British people protest, they'll lock them up. They'll lock them up for complaining something. Meanwhile, you've got Muslims just openly declaring, we're going to kill apostates, we're going to do all this stuff, and no problem with them. So normally we've explained this in terms of just sort of like cultural manipulation, portraying Muslims as victims and so on. And you can't criticize victims for anything because they're victims. But, you know, the regular British people, they're oppressors because of what happened, you know, a couple centuries ago or something like that. And so that's what's going on. That's what's going on, right? But there's this other component here, namely that you have endless trunks of money flowing in that are funding all sorts of causes that convince you do not go after these guys because that'll hurt your cash. Isn't it crazy that this is what the Jews always get accused of? Meanwhile, it's Qatar that's actually doing this stuff. Isn't that funny? I don't know. Yes. I think that's funny.
It is very funny.
Group that has taken most hit all around the world, and that's not good. Christian authorities, from the Pope down, they don't care. What we have to do is to have stricter rules, and mainly to enforce the principle of reciprocity. One church, one mosque. No church, no mosque.
But with the principle of reciprocity, even
I
if
have
it
a
weren't...
different solution. I have a better idea. It would just be one church, no mosque.
Yeah, I don't understand why this guy's saying you need reciprocity, one church, one mosque. I don't know what he's talking about. Like, I mean, it would kind of depend on the area, right? Like if you have an area that's 90% Christians or something like that, why would you say one church, one mosque? So I don't understand what that point was.
Observed be sufficient to prevent what...
Or if you wanted to say, okay, for every mosque that gets built in Europe, you guys have to build one church in the Middle East. I say, okay, deal, bud.
No mosque.
But would the principle of reciprocity, even if it were observed, be sufficient to prevent what is going on at the political level here? In 2008, Qatari Minister Abdullah bin Hamad Al Attiyah attended the inauguration of the first Christian church in Doha. A diplomatic gesture, to be sure, but a hollow one, in a country with barely any Christians and where nobody can vote. In a democracy, such displays of multicultural approval are used in a completely different way.
Well, in Sweden, we see the mega mosque in Malmö.
Well, I have to say, Stefan here has really, he has figured out to speak in a video and present it in a nice way, right? I mean, he was mostly just behind the scenes and just tweeting and interviewing others and so on. But this concept here seems quite nice, and the videos also seem quite kind of professional. So Visegrad is doing a good job.
Yeah, they're going to keep.
And I think Visegrad is one of those people, one of those organizations and groups that is very much needed in fighting back against invasions by Islam.
And yeah, Stefan and his brother, these are smart dudes, man, which is not what you'd think because they're Polish. If all you told me before meeting these guys was, hey, this is a Polish news agency, I'd have been like, oh, well, I have to check that. It would be like, it would almost be like the Babylon Bee, right? You'd expect it to be jokes.
You're going to anger more people here. Earlier, somebody was saying that they are now angry at us because we said some very racist and bad things about Ireland, and that's why they stopped listening to us. I told you. Irish people have very thin skin. It's kind of weird. Like you can make fun of every European population, and they'll understand it. But make fun of the Irish, and they're like, "How dare you? How dare you?"
Well, we can to atone for our past mistakes about Ireland, I'll sing my favorite Irish drinking song. Oh, the Germans are the best at war. The French got their cuisine, but no one gets drunker than the Irish. Classic song.
I also want to atone for for being offensive toward the Irish. To share the Irish spirit, I will from now on become an alcoholic.
That's good. You're going to be sharing the Irish spirits. Oh yeah. So anyway, that was a huge diversion from what I was saying. That if you told me, hey, there's this Polish news agency, I'd be like, well, wow, I'm sure that's some just bang up awesome news you're going to get from there. Then you actually meet these guys, and they're shockingly smart. And Stefan, speaks Polish, speaks fluent English. Then some French guy walks by. He starts babbling in perfect French, like his French was better than his English. Anyway, these guys are well educated, and that is the most dangerous thing in the world. More dangerous than Qatar. A well educated Polish guy.
Yes.
Pretty creepy.
Being financed by Qatar, we see the social democratic mayor being there at the inauguration, and one has to ask oneself, is this a political strategy of the left to actually accept this development in return for votes? And what would we call that? So we need to expose cynical politics by the left in Malmö, in Molenbeek, where there was an agreement between the socialist mayor and the imams that in return for votes, they will apply a laissez-faire policy vis-a-vis these radical mosques.
I'll let you guys slide as long as you keep voting.
The thing is, I see these responses and these analysis and all that, and they usually call out one certain side, the leftist side that cooperates and panders very much to Islam and Islamists in order to get the votes. But it's not just them; it is in general. Populations in the Western world, especially in Western Europe, have become become pushovers and have become very soft when it comes to things like these. A lot of the very same people who are very, very upset about mass immigration and Islamic influence and all that, when elections come about, go and vote for a party that supports these immigration moves. It's kind of a weird thing to see, because people, I guess, don't take it too seriously, which is why I think maybe we should find a different solution, like putting all Europeans in concentration camps and teaching them about Islam.
That's a good idea. AP is just an unstoppable fire hose of solutions to the world's problems.
You see
that? You see? Radical mosques. So let's check out. I think this next guy's Spanish, and he's got a weird voice.
Por supuesto que ahora mismo el principal problema de las sociedades en la Europa occidental.
Do all people in Spain talk like this? I'm not talking about the language, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about the voice.
Yes.
I think I told you before, there was this guy. I was locked up with a guy. He was from Haiti. But he was one of those guys that talk like this. And so I just thought, like, Haitians talk like And so one day I said, hey, all Haitians talk like and he goes, no, they make fun of me there too, dog. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, in Spain there is a dialect, though, that is I don't know. The eastern part of Spain has a lisp. That's what they do.
But this guy sounds like I don't know. Like a weak frog or something. I don't know. Let's see.
Por supuesto que ahora mismo el principal problema de las sociedades en la Europa occidental, España, Francia, Italia, Alemania, Holanda, Suecia, es la inmigración islámica que se organiza a través de las mezquitas. En España, en mi país, proliferan las mezquitas ilegales.
Proliferation of illegal mosques.
Preparando una gran mezquita.
Like I said, we have to take religion seriously. This is something, and culture, this is something that the left understands, and this is why they have a major advantage when it comes to politics, because they control so much of the narrative.
What he said right there, I actually noticed this back in the early 2000s as far as people on the left controlling the narrative. I picked this up. Me and Nabil were on the speech and debate team, and you actually go around to competitions. But I noticed that you're talking 90 to 95% of the people who were doing like speech events and so on were like far left. And I was just thinking all the way back then, because I'm not terribly political. If you wanted to, I can't consider myself right or left. Although now, because like left went insane left, I would just be right just by being so far from what the left has become. And that's how you ended up with lots of people who 20 years ago they were considered on the left, and now they're considered on the right. And even though they've never changed their views, but you would actually have to go like issue by issue and say, okay, David, this is the position of the left, this is the position of the right, which one are you on? And it would kind of be issue by issue. But I noticed even back then, I was like, people on the far left are doing what? They're going into speech and debate, like communications. They're going into communications, how to communicate their views, and they're training to learn how to communicate their views most effectively. Then I mostly learned how to make YouTube videos and so on my own. One time I went and actually took a film class. I went into the film class, and everyone there was far left. I was like, wait a minute, the people training to learn to make documentaries, and so it was like a documentary class. The people training to learn this stuff are far left. It's like, I was thinking way back then, like, you guys with other perspectives are in trouble. If all the people on some fringe are the ones that master the ability to communicate their views to the rest of the world, and you guys don't, you're kind of in trouble. And so he's along similar lines right now, that you've got people on one side of the spectrum controlling the narrative. And it's just interesting because they've been training for that for a while. Now they're doing it. And you look at Qatar, and they're training for a future caliphate, but they're thinking like 30 years down the road and so on. Like, what do we need to do in the meantime if we want our caliphate 30 years down the road? Well, let's get our tentacles in everything around the world. Let's get mosques around the world. Let's get tons and tons of Muslims in various places around the world. Let's get control of U.S. universities. Let's get control of banks, grocery stores, everything. I'm not exaggerating. We're about to see this. And then if we ever get a caliphate, we've already done the groundwork.
If the imam gets his order what to preach about on Friday from the embassies on Thursday, is this freedom of religion as we understand it? This is politics. And if we are talking about politics, we have to deal with it in politics, because what we could monitor, especially also in the last weeks and in the last months in Germany, crowds on the street calling for a caliphate. Okay, I say, if you want to live in a caliphate, there's an easy way. You can pack your luggage and leave into a country where we have caliphates. If you do not like democracy, if you do not like freedom, if you do not like women's rights, if you do not want to respect women, okay, you have the possibility and leave to such countries. But we do not want to have it in Germany. We do not want to have a caliphate all over Europe.
But you got a problem, dude. They're not trained to have their religion and go mind their own business. They're trained to take over the world until all religion is for Allah alone. That's a command. And so you're saying, why don't you not do what Allah tells you? Just go have your religion and mind your own business and leave us to ourselves. Not how it works in Islam. So they're kind of doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
I'm not interested. This is really a threat to our society.
You think?
Political Islam is enormously organized. Qatar is everywhere. Qatar has conquered Europe. The football teams are full of Qatar, and there are so many people who are attached now to interests of Qatar.
I saw an image the other day which was satirizing this thing. it was photos of 4 different major football teams in Europe. I forgot what it said, but it was like, which side do you support with the Qatar flag? And they all have Qatar sponsors as primary sponsors on their chest.
Nice,
They're
nice, guys. Broken down before, how I pointed out, like when people say, "Is Europe doomed? Is Great Britain doomed?" It might be doomed. It's not a hopeless. When I'm responding to that, I'm saying, is it a hopeless situation? No, you could easily change that if you just got enough people to wake up. The longer you wait, the more you put it off, the more you put things off, the more difficult it's going to be for the generation that actually tries to deal with the problem. Unless you just never deal with the problem, and then Islam will take over. But assuming you're going to get really, really fed up with it, the tipping point is usually the amount of pain and anguish that's going to be caused by doing nothing is actually greater than the pain and anguish of dealing with the problem. Once that happens, then you can actually have some sort of change. Well, think about what Qatar is doing, because it's absolutely brilliant. They're increasing massively the amount of pain dealing with the problem. If you end up with way more mosques and you end up with Arab countries that control everything around you, it becomes far more difficult to deal with the problem. It's going to be much more painful to deal with the problem. And so they're making it so that fewer people are going to want to deal with the problem, or are going to want to take the repercussions of dealing with the problem. And so maybe you put it off more. Maybe you put it off so long that you reach a point where it's too late. That's the goal. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. And what does everyone do? Thank you, Qatar, for funding all this stuff. You're so great. And then very soon, you're not allowed to criticize anything the jihadis on campus are doing, because that'll offend Qatar, and you don't want them to pull their bucks out of your school, right?
Mm-hmm. Or who are being paid directly or indirectly.
Is it possible to resist the caliphate without violating our own principles of freedom and democracy?
I need to stay with my conservative principles that I'm committed to, which is that we need to have really the freedom of speech. These mosques, that's a different case, because we're talking about radicalization of those people. So the imams are teaching that, for example, violence towards some other people is okay. So when it comes to, violence, killing, all of that, so that should be banned.
Terms like political Islam soften the reality of what is happening in Islamic infrastructure.
Maybe you have to compromise some of your values in order to deal with some problems like these. That's
the problem, right? That's a problem.
Maybe these values were put in place and established to begin with for European populations, for Western populations. And yes, maybe it works. Maybe freedom of speech, democracy, freedom of choice, all of these things, they work for Western people. They work for those people that they were intended for those civilizations, those cultures that are different from other cultures which don't have those values. Maybe when you deal with an influx from a different culture, maybe it's time to partially compromise some of those values in order to put a halt to the influx of something horribly intolerant. You can't endlessly tolerate something that is intolerant. It will just end up killing you.
And guys, you can see sort of an issue. So what was it, 2005? Gaza had elections. Hey, we're going to have freedom and democracy now. Let's have an election. Who did you vote into power? Hamas. And then guess what? No more freedom and democracy. So what AP was saying, and this was built into the thinking of the people who did it, it was not, hey, democracy always works. It was not democracy is the system that all people should have. It's we have a certain kind of population that has developed to a point where they can now handle freedom responsibly. And they pointed out, if you don't handle the freedom responsibly, if you just use it to do whatever you want, it will break down. The entire system will break down. and you will be controlled either from within or from without. But it got to the point where, so keep in mind, back then, it was a new thing. It was new that we're going to have all this freedom and democracy. It was a new thing. So people back then are like, wow, we've got this new thing. This is awesome. Then a few generations later, people think that that's just normal, that it's just normal. They just, hey, this is completely normal, having freedom and democracy and so on, and all these values. And we have all these values that we share and so on. And so what do we think? We think, hey, let's just spread this around the world. Let's help everybody with that. And then just within our lifetimes, people said, look at the Middle East. They've got all these evil dictators. Let's get rid of the evil dictators like Saddam and give them freedom and democracy. And then what do? You go out and, hey, let's help you get rid of this evil dictator so you can have freedom and democracy. Now we've given you freedom and democracy. What did you get? ISIS. That's who took over. Why? The population was not ready for it. So going to AP's point, what did the people of Gaza do when they had elections? Voted for Hamas. Bye-bye freedom and democracy. What happens after the fall of Saddam Hussein? Well, we tried to build a Western-friendly government, and ISIS takes over, right? So what happens? The people keep going for what they want, and it ain't freedom and democracy. They want Islamic supremacy. That's what they want. And so these are the people you're bringing into Europe and saying, hey, freedom and democracy. Now they're here. They got freedom and democracy. And meanwhile, in their heads, it's everything we're doing right now is for the ultimate goal of Islamic supremacy. And so the question is, can you, as a Westerner, look at that and say, hey, I believe in freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all these things, but this is in a different category. These are not people who want to be part of the system. These are people who ultimately want to overthrow and destroy our system and replace it with their system. Do we treat them the exact same way that we would treat other people who want to be part of our system? That's the big question. And this is what Islam does. It forces you to become something that you do not want to be. That's what it does.
And you don't want to be like Iraq. They didn't call him Saddam Hussein for no reason.
Saddam Hussein.
Structures laid in the West today. If we want to understand our future, we must first understand our past. Islamic law has been the basis of statehood in Europe before, and the Caliphate once extended to the very gates of Vienna and to the Pyrenees. Christians lived under a harsh discriminatory system which banned them from owning printing presses, forced their churches underground, and levied punitive taxes for non-citizens, and certainly did not allow equal political representation for non-Muslims, a bit like Qatar today.
Interesting little side note, guys. Interesting that this Polish guy remembers that. We talk about this quite a bit, that the people in Eastern Europe seem to remember a bit more about Islam because they had to deal with it more recently than, let's say, Great Britain or Scandinavia or something. The people in Eastern Europe, it's still in their memories of dealing with Islam in the past and what it did. And that's why you ask someone from Poland, hey, what's it like? What was it like being under Islamic control? It sucked, and they took away our rights. They wouldn't allow us to speak, and we had to do things underground, and they wouldn't allow us the printing press and stuff. They remember that stuff. You go to someone in Britain, what's Islamic rule? Oh, it's the greatest thing in the world, man. The golden age. It's the golden age of the universe, man. When Islam ruled, it was so great. Because they have no freaking clue what they're talking about, and they listen to their idiot professor at a university funded by Qatar. Morons.
Polish were based in history.
They're pretty, yeah. Dumb? Yes. Thieves? Yes. Based? Yes.
Well, they were based before the 20th century, but then, yeah, things went south.
Not frighten us by itself, but of course there are two more things that should frighten us. One is the interference of foreign countries, so foreign state-level political influence in our countries, in our nations. And second one, maybe more importantly, as I said, the totalitarian doctrine of political Islam. We should consider political Islam as nothing not fundamentally different from Nazi ideology, fascist ideology, or communist ideology.
Based.
Very, very based, dude. And I think what he's getting at there is they actually have categories for Nazism and so on in certain European countries. Like you can't have a copy of Mein Kampf and so on. You can't buy it in certain places and so on. So they actually cracked out. They don't treat all political ideologies as equal. They said, nope, your political ideology is dangerous and unacceptable. Sounds like he's saying put Islam in that category. Put Islam in the category of dangerous ideology, which it is indisputably. It is a dangerous political ideology. And I would say, since it's connected, what it's connected to, a religion with 2 billion adherents and so on, more dangerous.
Unfortunately, he says political Islam. It is just Islam altogether. And of course, I get it. If you just say Islam,
everyone
everyone starts freaking out and screaming, "Oh no, what did you say?" So saying political Islam might be a little bit safer as a small approach. However, in Germany, for example, Nazi symbolism, Nazi ideas, and so on are treated with very, very much disgust and are outlawed and all that. But if they were consistent, they would apply the same standards pretty much to Islam, or at least political Islam.
Right. So here's the end of the video.
These all are totalitarian ideologies that our countries are trying to keep out of our political lives. Same for political Islam should be valid.
If we want to keep our democracies, our secular enlightenment, and our freedoms, we must not tolerate revealed dogma as a source of...
Wait a minute. Did you see that? What are these Illuminati hand signals he's putting up?
Oh my gosh.
See? This is why they're so smart and they're Polish. We thought they were just smart Polish people, but they're Illuminati. You see?
Tolerate revealed dogma.
Oh, it's so weird. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
As a source of law, must not tolerate violence as a substitute for political negotiation at any level, and we must not allow our democratic institutions to be used by foreign powers to expand their anti-democratic ideology within our own borders.
Cerrar todas las mezquitas islamistas radicales donde se defienda el salafismo o el wahhabismo, cualquiera de esas teorías que son incompatibles con Occidente.
Based.
Well, here's the thing. I'm sitting here listening to this going, but these are Polish guys, man. These are Polish guys. And you have to think, were all the jokes I heard as a kid, all these Polish jokes, were all these jokes I heard as a kid just wrong and Polish people are actually smart? Or has the rest of the world become so insanely stupid over the past 30 years that Polish people now seem like geniuses by comparison?
No, it's
in other words, we're talking about you have left and right and so on. And so suppose you're right here. Suppose you're right here, something like this, and then your side just goes completely insane. Well, now you're actually closer to the opposite side and so on. Is it like that where if you have an intelligence spectrum, you have a bell curve, and Polish are way over here, they're way over here on the dumb side of the bell curve, but then the whole bell curve shifts, but they stay in the same spot, and all of a sudden now they're in the genius category. They're in the genius category. Isn't that weird?
No, it's just that Stefan is an exception. That's why.
Oh, okay, you're saying.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
He's like. So if you have, let's say, a bell curve within Poland, the average IQ would be, let's say, 30. But you have the bell curve, and it goes way out to the side, and he's
30. 30.
What's funny is I don't know what kind of sense of humor Polish people have. I don't know if we have this ongoing problem of people not understanding when we're joking and we're just running our mouths and making things up. So we get all these messages afterwards. Look, I'll never watch you guys again because you did this. Like we're totally.
No, I always had respect for Polish people and Polish culture and all that. It's nice to see that they haven't
one of us.
that they haven't become part of that whole ridiculousness of Western culture where people just become completely stupid and go, okay, let's just tolerate everything and anything and be stupid. I guess it might also have to do with Poland is a very nice thing. It's like a coming together of Western culture and Eastern European culture. It's kind of it's a very nice blend, a very nice mix of those. So while it looks very much Western, it hasn't been infected with most of the really ridiculously stupid progressivist woke ideas that have ravaged the Western world, and that's a very, very good thing to see. I'm very proud of Visegrad and hope they continue with this mission. Which makes me think they've always said forever that they want to work together with us, and this is kind of long in the waiting still. Powerful.
Smart guys, smart guys. All right, let's go through some super chats, and we're going to look at where some of this money is going. I'm just going to pull up an article. Is the Turkish Wingling Groyper axis of evil funded by Qatar? Just asking questions. Yeah, well,
yes.
We don't know exactly where the funding is coming from, but that would be a good guess.
Yes.
Can you go deeper with the funny voice? It makes everything have more clarity. Like the hospitals that are gone in Gaza is definitely worth your best funny voices. Are they talking about that voice? That voice? Can we go deeper?
We don't make funny voices.
Yeah, we're not making funny voices. This is what
a
Dawa
serious
guys sound like.
This is a serious channel, and it should stay that way.
Does this person think that Sharia
Yes.
is funny? Does this person think that a nation taking over the world by funneling billions of dollars into taking control of the world is funny?
Yes.
Is this a joke?
Yes. Yes.
Think we're just clowns here to entertain you?
Yes.
Yisrael in Hebrew means wrestled with God. Wrestlers in Greek is Palestis. Thus, Palestina is just Greek word literally meaning land of Israelites. You can Google translate it. Awesome.
That's one theory, but you know what's better?
What?
Israel also means struggle with God. And now think of the common saying, the struggle is real.
Mm-hmm.
The struggle is real.
real.
The struggle is real. The
struggle.
You see, this is the proof. This is
AP,
why Israel should control the entire world. It
That's
just
a good-
shows
that's a good point.
it's the proof.
this is, and I don't know where someone could even object to your airtight logic.
See?
AP is legally required to apologize for 1453 and Constantinople. Yes, he is Turkish. I haven't really held you to account for what your ancestors did.
Ancestors.
Your ancestors. Would you like to apologize for what happened in 1453 and speak on behalf of all Turkish people about giving it back?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what do you got to say? It's your only chance.
Sorry.
You speak on behalf of all Turkish people. He just apologized, ladies and gentlemen. You just
Sorry,
apologized. Do you
My
agree?
bad.
Do you agree to give it back?
No. Yeah.
I'll take that as a yeah. AP, you should disregard your emotional doubts of God and focus on the logical basis. We ex-Muslims are afraid to be duped, but extreme skepticism is folly. And you know you could trust this because it's from a channel called Veritas.
It's actually the opposite of what's holding me back.
So you're saying emotionally, you're actually drawn, but as far as your reason and logic, that's your stumbling block.
Yes, and it's kind of painful. I wish it wasn't there.
We could find that part of the brain and cut it out.
I was thinking of that. I ordered some material like scalpel and things like that to experiment with it, but let's see where that goes.
We could get you a one of Elon Musk. What's that thing called? The thing they put in your brain?
Microchip, brain chip, microchip.
No, they've got Elon has this thing, the Neuralink. Neuralink, is it Neuralink? Yeah. We'll get you a Neuralink, and you can just push a button.
Inshallah, figured out.
Thank you, Jagoda. Unix says 60-minute documentary on pager plot is interesting. Yeah, I keep planning to watch that at night, and I keep not doing it. Did you watch it yet?
No.
Got to see that. AP, as a former communist, yeah, so apparently, I've seen people comment on it. Apparently, they had the pager thing planned for years. They had that plan in their back pocket for years, and then they just had an opportunity to use it. And then there were all these obstacles to overcome and so on. And so how are they gonna add weight to the pagers without tipping guys off? So they advertise them as these super strong and mighty pagers that don't break easily if things get rough. And not so all the all the Hezbollah guys are like, oh, look at these. These are the most based pagers. We will order these. a bunch of dopes fell for it.
The thing, apparently, the former Mossad guy also said a phrase that is just going around now among all the conspiracy theorists. Like, you see, they're admitting it very openly. He said something like, "We create a pretend world," and it starts with that, but basically pointing out how advanced their intelligence is and how far forward they plan and how deeply they fool the other side and just have them in their grasp without them knowing it so far in advance and so on. And people are now going on, look, you see, it wasn't a conspiracy. They're admitting now that Jews control the world.
Oh boy. Awesome stuff. AP, as a former communist, I thought you might find the Militant interesting. It's the paper of the Socialist Workers' Party of America. They're Trotskyist Zionists, an exception to the Islamo-Left Alliance. So you have to like them.
No.
Yes,
that's kind of funny. That's funnily interesting. I'll check it out, though.
Bo Rudder said, we missed your family's Christmas video this year. David, Merry Christmas to you and yours and AP's family, too. Do I put out Christmas videos?
Yeah, why didn't you put out your Christmas video this year?
I didn't know I did that. I must have forgot. Contrition for showing Croatia's... I know I have at certain points in the past, but I just think I do that periodically. Contrition for showing Croatia's representatives in the European Parliament, Stipo Bartulika. And Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Thanks, Jagoda.
Croatia's representatives in the European Parliament.
That wasn't the video.
Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, D. Wood and AP. You're both doing God's work. Yep, even you, AP. That's true. That's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's the truth. The English, pale vampires with fetal alcohol syndrome who basically made Protestantism popular due to their fat syphilitic king killing his wives.
Syphilitic?
Vampires. You're in the wrong part of the world. I can't even take your comment seriously after that. Vampires. Come on.
Syphilitic.
You need to go over to Wallachia and so on. Los ojos son las tiras del curo. I think that's the eyes. I think that's the eyes are the leather strap of the anus in some language. Doesn't that look like it?
It does look like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Khomeini just made that up. I don't think Henry VIII had syphilis. So
I think that's a theory about why his sons didn't survive, because that can be connected to having a venereal disease. Armageddon worried. Islam is winning. Armageddon worried. Hey, you actually use it like I did. Armageddon. I came up with this idea years ago, and I've never done anything with it. But Die Hard, because it comes up every year with Die Hard, the greatest Christmas movie ever. But so I noticed that in part 1, in the original Die Hard, he saves the people in a building. And then in part 2, he saves an entire airport. And then in part 3, he saves the city of New York. And then in part 4, he saves the entire United States. I didn't see what happened in part 5, but I know there's something about Russia. So he's saving like Western civilization or something like that. And then so they have to keep escalating. So what would part 6 be? Part 6 would be he's obviously got to save the entire planet from something that's coming. And I was like, oh, that was Armageddon. That was Armageddon. A meteor's about to destroy all life on the earth and stuff, and he has to go up there. So I was thinking, like, what if that was? I thought about making like a fake movie trailer, and it says, first he saved an entire building, then he made a difference again and saved an entire airport, then he saved us again by saving New York City, then he saved the entire country, then he saved Western civilization. What's next? And then the movie trailer about the meteor coming and stuff like that, and then it hits Die Hard 6, Armageddon ready to die hard. Armageddon ready to die hard. That's how Tezbot used it. Armageddon worried.
That's a very good idea. You should have put out that video. It could have gotten a lot of, at least 10 views or so.
Someone could still do that. Fake movie trailers are popular for some reason.
Yes.
So anyway, that would be a cool fake movie trailer. And you've got all the clips. You just have to put them all together and make a fake make a voiceover. God forgive me, if Jesus was Palestinian, we wouldn't have Christianity because Mary would have strapped a bomb to his chest and sent him to be a martyr. That'd be actually a funny response. Be like, no. if they were really Palestinians, she would have trained him to strap a bomb on himself and she would have sent him to be a martyr.
I saw a post and I didn't share it because I thought it's a little bit it's a little bit much. But it was, I don't know if you've seen it, but the so-called pretend state of Palestine made a post called a Palestinian family, and it's just it's Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. But it just says a Palestinian family, and Jesus is depicted as a baby with a keffiyeh, with a tablecloth around his neck, and somebody posted a response to it, and it's kind of like iconography nicely, and somebody edited that post and made a response to it and put in iconographic style an AK-47 into the baby Jesus' hand and said, if you want to depict him as Palestinians, at least do it accurately. I wasn't sure if that's a little bit too disrespectful, so I didn't share it.
These are the tough calls we have to make, everyone. These are the tough calls we have to make in our line of work.
But it was quite funny.
AP is eating sevap, but as we all know, these letters have different sounds, and I think the V isn't. I think the V is pronounced R, so it's karap.
No, it's actually chivap.
Or karap. I'm at the stage where seeing Muslims in my town upsets me. It's the way they represent. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can be. Again, guys, I got into this because my best friend was a Muslim and his family was super cool and nice and so on. So there are plenty of cool Muslims, but yeah, things tend to change as their numbers get bigger. Michael James says, AP, do you like Lamagün? My local Turkish restaurant stopped selling it because I was the only one who liked it.
I do like it, depending on who makes it.
Oh, so you know what that is?
It's Turkish pizza.
Oh,
it's like,
who's not going to like any kind of pizza's good?
It's not really like pizza. It's just a pizza-ish Turkish thing, But it's kind of.
Do you like it? Yes or no?
Kind of, yes.
Thank you, boys, for what you do. Light is the best disinfectant, metaphorically speaking, to this hateful ideology. That's what we do.
Powerful.
El Cid, Lionheart, King Baldwin, and Skanderbeg in heaven looking at Europe right now. Huh? So I guess our descendants went full weetard. Weetard, that's a good way to spell it. Thank you, Poland. Yes, for John Zabisky. Would Mia Khalifa or Wiz Khalifa be a better caliph? that's a tough call. They both they represent different aspects of Islam. Vid on X, an imam in Ireland tells his congregation to murder non-Muslims. No, that would how would that ever happen? We can't believe you.
It is totally based.
When will you two do a road trip in Saudi Arabia? Easy to get tourist visa. I did so. Rented car. Prayed to Jesus. 4 Muslims outside big mosque in Medina. Saw a Marvel movie. Huge cinema in Riyadh with both genders. I actually, given the direction they've been heading, which is to show the world that they've changed and they're not radical anymore, it's kind of a possibility in the future of actually going there. Because on the one hand, you had people like Zakir Naik actually advising Muslim nations that they should keep a database. He called it a data bank. We should keep a data bank on these people who are speaking of Islam. And then if they ever resort to any Muslim country, they should be taken and arrested, right? So he's saying you could actually sentence critics of Islam to death by keeping a database of people who've criticized Islam on social media. And then if they ever show up to your country for any reason, you're a Muslim country, you can have them arrested and so on. So there are concerns that they'd kind of be waiting on you. But I'd be willing to take this risk. I'd be willing to take a risk like, oh, come on, I'll go there. And if you lock me up or lash me or something like that, that would kind of, I mean, it'd be up to you. If you want to show that you're genuinely not going to go that route with people, great. Then D Wood and AP should be able to show up and check out the new boxing match in Riyadh or something like that. But if you want to grab me and lash me and lock me up for 10 years, then I'll take that. I'll take that for exposing you. I'll take that trade.
I don't buy it.
Huge cinema with both genders. Yep. Oh, the times they are a changing. Searching Deeper says churches. What?
I might go if there's another Iggy Azalea concert in Saudi Arabia. I might go to
if Iggy Azalea is going to be on stage with her butt bouncing up and down while she sings "Worship the Goddess," we will go just to record. We will go just to record the audience, and
under the condition that this time the concert takes place in Mecca.
Got to be in Mecca, and she's got to be on top of the Kaaba, twerking, making it shake.
That would be funny, man.
Churches in the West need. That's the direction they're going. I mean, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, hey, what do you think of the odds of Iggy Azalea twerking on stage and singing "Worship the Goddess" in Riyadh? I'd be like, no, not going to happen. Wrong.
I know. When I saw it, I was honestly surprised because as a Muslim, that would have been unbelievable to me. It would have also been extremely offensive to me, and without seeing it, I would have never believed it. It's strange.
And that happened. I mean, it was just a few years ago that women got the right to drive there, and this is how far they changed this quickly. You wonder what are things going to be like another 5 or 10 years from now? Is there going to be a backlash against that, and they change, or are they going to keep going in that, or are they going to sort of stop like at this level? I don't know, but I want to know. I want to see it. Churches in the West need to evangelize much more in their local communities. True. Muslims are now reachable. True. No longer locked away in dangerous countries. True. Politics can't solve this. Only revival. Yeah, politics can deal with very short-term problems. Islam, you need to change a lot of people's minds on a lot of things. And yes, you are correct. For 14 centuries, your average Muslim was in a Muslim community. You were almost completely unable to reach that person. If you showed up and you started telling him why Islam is wrong, you're going to lose your head very quickly. And now we can communicate with Muslims in Muslim countries through the internet. And you have tons of Muslims who are living in the West, and they're on college campuses and so on. And so you have open access now to people that you did not have open access to for 14 centuries. Christians should be looking at this as the greatest time in history to reach Muslims with the gospel and not be, oh, no, we're all doomed. We're all doomed. What are you talking about? You just got the opportunity for the greatest period of evangelizing Muslims in history. You're like, oh no, look, politics. Get out there and preach. Quit being babies.
The thing is that it takes a lot of time for cultures to change.
That's true.
And I don't know how to say this because it sounds kind of controversial, however I say it. But
don't say anything controversial on the show. Don't do it.
If you have, if you have one person or two people who find their way and knowingly and willingly on their own accord convert to Christianity from Islam, for example, it is probably very likely that the person doing that is going to be somebody who is quite detached from Islamic culture and all that, and is ready and willing to change, and possibly is already different in culture from other Muslims. However, if you have massive populations of people from Muslim cultures that are very, very much not very pleasant cultures, they still have their cultural aspects with them. Even if they convert to Christianity, while they may change their ways slowly, many of them will still carry the messed up Islamic culture that they come with. So I don't know. Just converting them to Christianity, of course, would be an interesting development. However, a better solution would always be to just rearrange populations and convert those who want to, or something like that.
The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is deal with it in every sane way that you have. So you should be electing politicians who are going to be smart and not idiots. You should be watching news sources that are smart and not brainwash morons and so on. Because guess what? If more people, media organizations are businesses. And if people stop watching, they'll change their tune real quick like. And so the point is the people have way more power than they realize. They are just not united around any sane cause. But anyway, you should be funding the right causes with your money. You should be supporting the right politicians, the right media organizations, and Christians, you should be out there exposing, everyone should be exposing Islam, regardless. If you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, if you're a Hindu, Christian, whatever, everyone should be exposing Islam because we are all under similar circumstances from Islam. Christians should be out preaching the gospel. And people should be doing all of these things relentlessly, as in not an afterthought, as in this is borderline D-Day. This is D-Day level stuff. You should be taking this stuff very, very seriously because as you can see, you have places like Qatar and Turkey, and they are being very methodical, very relentless in taking over down the road. And so if you're
Turkey is methodical.
No. Turkey combined with Qatar. Again, Turkey, as far as I can tell, is focused on the Middle East and using its connection to Western nations to give it a little bit of cover for wanting to take over the Middle East. But yeah, so my view is that Turkey's going to be like the Sunni version of Iran and causing lots of problems around the Middle East and having other people do their work for them. But Qatar is focused on spreading the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology around the world. And
Turkey is also about expanding their collection of animals that they can copulate with, from goats to, for example, also get into the industry of camels and all that.
And wolves.
Yeah.
We have Dami here. A Jew and a Muslim are hiking. The Jew jumps behind a rock. The Muslim says, "What are you doing?" The Jew replies, "I heard in a story that rocks might talk." The Muslim laughs. "If rocks start speaking, I'm hiding with you." This is a Muslim who does not understand his religion.
Powerful.
Or he could be a Muslim who really understands his religion. It says, if the rocks start speaking, then that's the time when Jews will be destroyed. But since I'm friends with a Jew and hiking with him, I would be in violation of Surah 5, verse 51, not to associate with Jews. And what's that verse say? Do not take the Jews as friends. They are friends of each other. If you do take them as a friend, you're one of them. And so you would actually be on the receiving end of a death sentence as well. So, yep, these are the things. These are the things.
Or he wants to hide together with the Jew so that he knows exactly where the Jew is when the time comes.
No, I know where he is. I'm currently in Chittorgarh, India, visiting historical sites that withstood Islamic invasions, preserving the Hindu heritage of myself and my ancestors. I recommend researching Bapa Rawal. For those of you who know what that is, you can research it. Israel means struggle with God, the first jihadis. You see? AP and David Wood question, do all Muslims believe in Jannah, or are there different heavens in Islam? Merry Christmas.
No, it's very much... there was only in history a very tiny portion of people who believed that that Jannah, as described, might not be exactly what you think it is, or it might be temporary and all that. But the vast majority, absolute vast majority, believes in Jannah the same way. They just believe that there are different stages or grades of Jannah, of heaven, depending on your level of deeds and all that. You go into one place or another.
Yeah, so you can always have some sort of oddball Muslim or something like this who reinterprets things, or some group that reinterprets things, but that's about as standard as things get in Islam. We nuts unite and steal a bit of David's food off his plate while he's looking, then smile a lot. Yeah, like a dork. Watch out for Russia being controlled / influenced by Muslims, Muslim Chechens, Islamists in Russia, Syria, Turkey, etc., leaning towards prophecy that mentions Gog and Magog. Any hoot. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to all. Oh, we watch out for Russia. And you have Putin always has to be careful in maintaining good relations with the Muslims, because he wants them as fighters for his wars.
I just find it so funny always. And yes, Muka, happy Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. But I find it so funny that some people have always presented Putin and Russia as these, look, the West is sellout, the West is weak and soft, but at least Putin, he's defending Europeans, he's defending Christianity. Meanwhile, in reality, Russia is much worse with Islam than Europe has ever been, than Western Europe has ever been.
Putin seems to do whatever he needs to keep himself in power and to keep his armies under his control. That's what he does.
He has Islamist allies. He has Islamist subjects that have become his mob, with which he threatens Ukraine and others. He makes rules based on the whims of Muslims, of Islam. He kisses the Quran and calls it, a great, beautiful religion and all that. It's just, it's been much worse than how the West handles Islam.
Mm-hmm. It's been pretty bad. Michael says, Bear Grylls, blimey, I've embarrassed myself on the internet. The only thing to do in this survival situation is to drink my own pee. I don't know if you've ever seen it, AP, but he does that. He starts running out of fluids, and no problem, got to drink your own pee. And even if you don't drink your own pee, guys, if you're in a hot place and still you're in a hot, I learned this because for some reason I only saw a few episodes, but I saw one, and I saw a special on some Boy Scouts who got into a really bad, I think they were at the Grand Canyon or something, but it ended up being like 120 degrees or something like this, and they didn't bring enough supplies, and one of them died, but barely. They had almost reached the water when he collapsed. But Bear was pointing out that, when you pee, just taking off your shirt or something like that and peeing on it and wrapping that around your head helps cool your brain down. And the kid died of heat stroke. And so I was like, wow, just that little tip of when you pee on something and wrap it around your head would have saved that kid's life. You see? And these are Boy Scouts. So, ladies and gentlemen, point here is, if Bear Grylls, who's a survivalist, tells you something about how to survive, you should listen to him. If he tells you something about Jesus being a Palestinian, he's an idiot in that area. Doesn't mean he's an idiot in all areas. It means he's a dope in that area. So don't listen to him in that area. Listen to him in the areas where he actually knows what he's talking about. Christmas was started by the Jews to trick Christian anti-Semites into celebrating the birthday of the King of the Jews. Shh, don't tell Candace. That would be funny. That'd be funny if you turned everything into a conspiracy, but like going against Candace. Driving is
I saw somebody actually suggest that was around the time when Candace went against Rabbi Shmuley and talking trash about the Chabad organization and the rabbi. And somebody said on Twitter, oh, he's the one who invented Hanukkah to to manipulate Christmas and Christians and all that, as a Jew would of course do.
Yeah,
and that was a serious suggestion.
That's what they do.
It wasn't a troll. It was somebody seriously thinking something as dumb as that. Hanukkah, which is mentioned in the apocryphal texts of the Bible and also directly in the Gospels.
Driving isn't a right, but a privilege. No, it's a right and a privilege. Missed you guys. I hope the holidays were fun.
Very.
Imagine the Quran talking about Jesus coming back to kill the Antichrist, whilst Islam is literally the Antichrist. It is ironic.
It is.
Sadia says, Muhammad predicted twerking. Sahih al-Bukhari, 7116. I'm guessing that's the one with the girls shaking their butts going around Dul Khalasa. I don't remember the number, but I'm guessing that, yeah. He predicted twerking. This is the proof. How can he know?
He said the time will be near when the women of the tribe of Daus will be going around the Dul Khalasa shaking their booties. That's basically what he said. And then he destroyed the Dul Khalasa, which was the other temple, which was the other Kaaba in Yemen. So he prophesied that this would happen near the end times, but then he destroyed that Kaaba. So
if I were Muslim and I were looking at these prophecies and so on, I would say, just 10 years ago, you would have thought that it was impossible for women to be shaking their butts walking around Dul Khalasa. But look, now we have Iggy Azalea shaking her butt, saying, worship the goddess. What is this? This is paganism. And what are they going to do? They're going to build a big concert hall, and they're going to call it Dul Khalasa. And Iggy Azalea is going to be shaking her butt. This is the proof. How could Muhammad have known this? Something like that.
You see, I told you. And this is all because of the Jews.
What do you say to a jihadi? Okay, boomer. Celeria says, it is a process of transformation which takes time indeed, but conversion can deeply change the hearts and minds of those who do so in earnest. The chaff is burned away by the Spirit in holy fire. Yeah, so again, I would say you got to do everything. You toss everything. You toss everything at the problem. All right, just wanted to look at a couple little things, and then we'll head on out once we're done. But let's go ahead and check this out. Ready for this? Ready to be humiliated, AP? Let's see. Let me scroll. What is this? There we go. All right, so check this out, guys. Check this out. This is... Hey, check this out. Here's Wikipedia asking for money. I don't know if you saw... Did you see did you see Elon messing with them? People actually posted where Wikipedia donations go, and it's something like 30 or 40% go to their diversity programs, and it's like,
what?
I mean, I'm fine with some sort of diversity but seriously, like you're taking like a third of all the donations, and you're doing what? Like what? You could have some sort of sane program telling people to get along with other people or something like that. But for some reason, I think that's probably not what's going on.
I used to donate to Wikipedia on a regular basis. I stopped doing that at some point. And honestly, lately, with all the garbage that is going around on Wikipedia, I feel very, very much not motivated to do that at all.
Yeah, they are. Oh, hey, did you see what Elon offered them $1 billion? Did you see that?
No.
You didn't see that? Oh,
no.
Man. It was actually funny because he made him a serious offer. So one, he told people, he posted how how they actually spend their money. And he's like, what is this? And he's been calling it Wikipedia, right? He's been calling it Wikipedia because of that. But then he told people, do not donate to Wikipedia as long as this is how they're spending their money. And then after telling everyone not to donate to Wikipedia as they've got their donation campaign going on, he then agreed to give Wikipedia $1 billion. $1 billion. In other words, all the funding they need for a long, long time. He offered to give them $1 billion if they will change their name for 1 year, just 1 year. So if they agree, change your name for 1 year. And he said, you have to change your name to Dickopedia. And he says, I will give you $1 billion to change your name for 1 year. Then you can change it back to Wikipedia. Isn't it crazy that you could just have that kind of money? You're like, I'll give you $1 billion just for this joke because I think it would be funny.
Man,
that's crazy. Funny. Anyway, that's what Elon said. Anyway, let's go through just a little bit of this. We're not going to read this entire thing. Just want to see where money's going. So the Qatar Investment Authority, QIA, is Qatar's sovereign wealth fund. QIA was founded by the state of Qatar in 2005. So you're talking less than 20 years ago. Look what you can do in 2 decades to strengthen the country's economy by diversifying into new asset classes. In November 2024, the QI had an estimated $526 billion of assets under management. So it's over $500 billion that they are that they're using for investments. And you check out into some of the investments. Let's kind of zoom down here. So investments. In January 2013, one writer pegged the QIA investment in Britain at 30 billion, France at 10 billion, Germany at 5 billion, while another reported that the total assets under management in June 2013 was on the order of 100 billion. Qatar's holdings stake in Barclays rose to 12.7% following Barclays' capital rising in October 2008. Qatar Investment Authority holds a small stake in Fisker Automotive. It also holds about 17% in the Volkswagen Group, Porsche, and Hochtief, as well as investments in Sainsbury's. That's their grocery store. I think it's like the biggest grocery store company over there in the UK. And I think they're the biggest. I think they have the biggest share in that. So they're literally controlling the food. Anyway, the French government has made of Qatar a strategic partner. And the list of partnerships between the two states includes all these places, blah, 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 blah. In February 2009, France accorded special beyond OECD investment privileges, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, investment privileges to Qatar and its state-owned enterprises. One example is capital gains exemptions in France. The QI is also reported to hold part of Glencore. On the 8th of May 2010, Qatar Holding, an indirect subsidiary of QIA, purchased the Harrods Group from Mohammed Al Fayed, including the Knightsbridge department store. Department stores. QIA are also the largest shareholder in Sainsbury's. Yeah, okay, that's Sainsbury's. Largest shareholder in British grocery stores. On the 3rd of December 2010, Qatar Investment Authority, along with Colony Capital and Tudor Saliba Corporation, was part of an investment group known as Film Yard Holdings, which purchased Miramax from Disney. They're going in every direction. I have to say, from an investment perspective, these guys are being smart. They're diversifying. February 2012, it completed the acquisition of Credit Suisse's headquarters in London. QIA holds a 6% stake in Credit Suisse and owns shares in Apeldoorn, the majority owner of Canary Wharf Group. Qatari Diyar, a property arm of the fund, along with Canary Wharf, won a $300 million deal to redevelop the Shell Centre in London, the former London headquarters of Royal Dutch Shell. The French government has offered tax exemptions for Qatari real estate investments in the country and have acquired almost $4 billion of property. In May 2012, it acquired a stake below 3% in Royal Dutch Shell. It has announced a plan to raise its stake to 7% in late 2012. Qatar Sports Investments completed a buyout of the French football club Paris Saint-Germain, which valued the club at $130 million. QSI invested a further $340 million in the club. They had bought the blah, blah, blah team the previous year. Qatari president of PSG, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, is also the director of Qatari-owned television network Al Jazeera Sports. Guys, you're familiar with Al Jazeera? That's Qatar. That's Qatari TV network. Al Jazeera Sports, which launched French television channels in beIN Sport. Qatar has also offered to finance social programs in French suburbs.
You know what I find funny here?
I don't
you
find
have a
this funny at all.
typical American. You just refuse to pronounce Paris Saint-Germain.
Why would I want to pronounce any of this stuff?
Because everybody in Europe would have the respect to pronounce that football club's name properly.
I don't even know what the heck it is. Paris Saint-Germain, the handball? No, they said handball team. What the heck is a handball
primarily
team?
Football. It's a sports club.
You're a sports club. So let's see. November 20. I'll just hit some highlights here. November 2012. Blah blah blah. Starting blah 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 blah. 4-year made in Italy. To promote Made in Italy, and Qatar's Arabic partners push them to invest in Italian economic sectors like fashion, luxury, design, food, tourism, lifestyle, and leisure. They are investing in everything. 2013. It's like they are methodical, man. This is brilliant. In January 2013, Qatar Holding, indirect subsidiary of QIA, said it would invest $5 billion into petrochemical projects in Malaysia in 3 to 4 years. Investment was said to help Malaysia compete with neighboring Singapore to become the region's top petrochemical hub. $200 million in India, blah, blah, blah. In October 2014, Qatar Investment Authority signed an agreement with the CITIC Group Corps to launch a $10 billion fund to invest in China. China? Are these guys sending money to Eskimos? They're investing everywhere on the planet. QIA announced its intention to invest $35 billion in the U.S. during the next 5 years, starting in September 2015. Via Manai Corporation, currently in a process of acquiring the French computer science group, GFI, Locus Engineering Management Services, investing in a sub-Saharan Africa renewable energy platform being led by Enel Green Power. During the 2021 St. Petersburg Economic Forum, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani highlighted Qatar's solid historic relations with Russia and announced that his country will increase investments in the Russian Federation. He also called on Russia's private sector and the world to explore Qatar's promising business environment in many projects in several spheres. In March 2021, QIA became a minority investor in Coveo, the cloud-based search recommendations personalization company. 2023, Qatar Investment Authority has doubled its stake in Credit Suisse Group, becoming the second biggest shareholder and underlining the growing importance of Middle Eastern investors in the ailing Swiss bank. Reuters wrote 2024 that QIA had agreed to buy 10% stake in China AMC and was awaiting approval by Chinese regulators. This goes on, so we won't read all of this, but I mean, just Qatari DR, real estate company established by the Qatar Investment Authority in 2005 with headquarters in Lusail. This is all the stuff. This is all the property they've been buying. Buying up lots of properties. Olympic Village.
You know what's funny?
Well,
as you were reading, I was just looking at Twitter, and apparently Elon or Twitter just banned a dozen major Groper accounts.
Really? Well, it's good you find that funny. Is that what you were referring to yesterday? What were you saying? Because I wasn't following any of that. I kind of saw it afterwards, but you had posted, I wonder if Twitter's going to be here tomorrow or something like that.
No, that was because people were fighting with Elon. I don't know if you're aware of the whole conversation around Indian immigrant labor and Elon's response to it, and then the right-wing response to it, and so on. And then people were also yesterday, last night, lots of well-known people suddenly lost their verification badges on Twitter, and they're suddenly under review, and they also lost their subscriptions and all that. And people were like, "What is happening?" So that's why I said I wonder if X will be still running tomorrow. But this is different from that. Right now, apparently, a dozen different groper accounts have been banned. Including some very well-known ones that would get lots of attention and traction. And to be honest, I'm happy with it.
Ooh, see, AP is for free speech as long as he's the only one who gets to speak.
Exactly.
But as soon as the gropers are going to expose the Jews, then he doesn't want them.
Exactly.
Hey, check this out. This is interesting. Let's glance at this. Recent developments. Harrods. British luxury department store Harrods was purchased by Qatar in May 2010. The sale was concluded in the early hours of 8th of May when Qatari Prime Minister Hamad bin Jassim bin Jaber Al Thani came to London to finalize the deal, saying that the acquisition of Harrods would add much value to the investment portfolio of Qatar Holdings, while his deputy, blah, 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 called it a landmark transaction. Property investments in London. Canary Wharf Group Investment Holdings, which is majority owned by Qatar Holdings, is London's largest property owner. You catching this? Who is London's largest property owner?
Wow.
Canary Wharf Group, which is majority owned by Qatar Holdings, with almost 21.5 million square feet of space on its books, according to data.
Wow.
In addition to the investments with Canary Wharf, Qatar Investment Authority owns the site of the Chelsea Barracks and the Shard. Heathrow Airport. Look at this. Qatar Investment Authority is a major shareholder in Heathrow Airport, holding 20% of the airport. They've got 20% of the airport.
Wow.
In 2017, the company invested a further $650 million. Islamabad Airport. QIA will be taking over Islamabad Airport in Pakistan. Volkswagen.
Islamabad, man.
Volkswagen, Barclays, all this stuff. Qatari investments in New York and D.C. Manhattan, New York got Manhattan Properties. Brookfield Property Partners. These guys, I mean, this is crazy, man. From an investment perspective, these guys are brilliant. But if you know these guys are connected to the Muslim Brotherhood and Al Qaeda, and they're buying up all this stuff, that's a different story. What's that mean? They're investing in a lot of stuff. They're going to get revenue in return. So now the entire world is funding what? Wild stuff, man. Wild stuff.
What are they funding?
What?
Powerful. They're funding good, powerful stuff. Is that what you say?
They're getting richer and richer and richer and richer and richer. And I don't mean Richard Dawkins. What? Was that funny?
It's not funny.
Was it funny then? Just have one more thing I want to look at. One more thing.
Rich are getting richer.
Take these couple of super chats here. Peace be upon me. One church, no mosque. How about no mosque at all? Very rude plan. Got to have a based economic portfolio. Hey, bros. Economic portfolio. Hey, Isa, you should jump on with us on Tuesday. I didn't tell you about it, AP, but I've coordinated with a bunch of people to have a sort of a end of the year live stream where we go through sort of a Dawa 2024 year in review of all the Dawa wars, the Dawa scandals, the collapse of Dawa. Everyone's going to jump on with us at various times, and
everyone
is going to jump on with us. And they're going to go through, we're going to talk about Sheikh Uthman. We're going to talk about Muhammad Hijab. We're going to talk about all these things. And we're going to discuss predictions for next year, and plans for next year. It'll be pretty dope. So we'll start, and then we'll go all the way through until the ball drops, and it is officially 2025.
What ball?
There's a big giant ball that drops in New York City. I went down there. It was actually pretty boring. AP, if you're comfortable, what logical objections? AP saying he has logical objections and he just got called by Magnifico Giganticus.
I wasn't speaking purely logic. I was just saying that in compare. So when one of the comments said leaving your emotions aside,
it's basically they're putting like they were comparing like intellect and emotion and saying, AP, drop your emotional objections and just focus on the intellect. And you were basically saying, no, it's actually the reverse. Emotionally, you're kind of drawn to something. It's your intellect that's causing the problems because your intellect is so weak.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's the skepticism and all that is the problem.
And
we can talk about it in length at other times.
We should do that one day. You should do that one day. You should invite some inspiring philosophy and other people, and you just go down a list and you'll like AP's top 10 objections to converting or something like this, and have a couple people on there and let them respond to your objections and humiliate you.
Yeah, I did want to have. It's long in the waiting. I did want to invite certain Christian people on and discuss the whole issue about God with them. Among those, I think I do want to have Jay Dyer on again and have a long discussion with him, because I think the discussion that I had with him years ago about God was one of the. It was a very nice discussion. I liked it. I also have some respect and admiration for Jay Dyer, because he's a very, very, very brilliant, very intelligent guy. But yeah, I do want to do something like that. I personally don't have any other. I don't have any Christian friends or anything that I always go live with or that I associate with very much. So can't think of anybody else, fortunately.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good valid point. Oh, as far as Tuesday. Earlier this morning, I sent a message to Harris Sultan, asked him if he wants to jump on there with us. But anyone, like, it doesn't need to just be Christians and stuff talking about dawah in 2024 and what they're expecting from 2025. So anyone who's watching, if you want any of the ex-Muslims, doesn't matter, atheists, anyone who wants to jump on with us, send me a message, let us know. Happy to get everyone's input on what their thoughts are for how things have gone. Because as far as I can tell, man, it's been like a really, really bad year for dawah. Maybe the worst year in history for dawah. I mean, it's just everything just has been collapsing, and they've taken loss after loss after loss, and it's in every way. They're losing every debate. They really thought they were gonna crush Israel at some point just by whining on college campuses. That didn't work out, to the point where they're giving up. They're focusing on Syria. Now you're getting the dawah wars. All these people who were united and they were best buddies when they were attacking Israel are now attacking each other online because they're supporting different factions in Syria and so on. So it's all collapsing. It's all collapsing.
Powerful.
And Knows Too Much says, Jesus the Jew was speaking in Hebrew. I heard a voice speaking to me in the Hebrew language. Acts 26:14. Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and said to him in Hebrew. John 20:16. Most translations say Aramaic, but I think they use sort of the same thing in the Bible for referring to Hebrew and Aramaic quite frequently.
I mean, he clearly says in the Gospels that he is a Jew. It's like you don't even need anything else. Jesus refers to himself as a Jew. The Samaritan woman calls him a Jew in John 4:9. He calls himself a Jew in John 4:22. And then Paul calls himself a Jew, a big Jew, and also explains that Jesus was a Jew, and so on. So, like these people who don't want to acknowledge that they are just engaged in mental gymnastics that are just beyond horrible.
But the people...
Exactly.
All right, just wanted to look at this. As far as Qatar, just wanted to look at this one last thing. I'll need to crop this because it's a different size, but let's see here.
Qatar, you're such a wonderful, awesome place.
But you're starting to creep me out by taking over so much stuff and buying properties and funding all these mosques and such. When you support the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda, you're creeping me out, creeping me out, creeping me out. So this is Newsweek. This is from 4 years ago. This is one of the articles that popped up when I was searching for issues with university. I've seen more recent stuff that's like the various charts and so on about how much money Qatar is putting into American universities. But this was noticed even in Newsweek 4 years ago. So this is from 2020. Let's read a little of this. Officials at the U.S. Department of Education last month released findings in their investigation into Georgetown University, Texas A&M, Cornell, Yale, Harvard, Rutgers. Guys, you might be recognizing some of these names. Cornell, Harvard, Rutgers. You might be recognizing some of these names as colleges where there was a big problem with anti-Semitism this year and last year. And yet you had, in 2020, it was already being noticed that Qatar was sending massive amounts of money to these universities. And it's actually disturbing. The universities weren't reporting it as they are legally required to do. Fun stuff. Check this out. So Georgetown, Texas A&M, Cornell, Yale, Harvard, Rutgers, and other universities over billions of dollars in unreported funding from the oil-rich Gulf Kingdom of Qatar. Much of the known Qatari funding has gone to Texas A&M, Georgetown, Cornell, Carnegie Mellon, Northwestern, and Virginia Commonwealth, all of which maintain campuses subsidized by the Royal Family-Linked Qatar Foundation. Campuses subsidized by the Royal Family-Linked Qatar Foundation. Between 1986 and 2018, Middle Eastern countries donated more than $6.6 billion to U.S. universities, but reported less than $3.6 billion to the federal government as required by law. Of the roughly $5 billion donated by Qatar, and by the way, it's much more now, of the roughly $5 billion donated by Qatar to various institutions, less than $2 billion was reported properly, according to federal records and 7 years of research by experts and investigative accountants at the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. So $5 billion donated by Qatar to these colleges. Less than $2 billion was reported properly. So you're just getting billions of dollars in funding and not reporting it to the government properly. Huh.
Wow.
According to these findings, some of which were presented at a summit on contemporary anti-Semitism hosted by the Department of Justice in July 2019. So it was already an issue. They're recognizing, wait a minute, we're having some problems here because Qatar is sending billions of dollars in funding to Western universities, and we're looking at what they're doing, and we think this is actually leading to more anti-Semitism. Again, guys, this is 4 years ago, and they're talking about findings from even before that. So, Department of Justice, July 2019, which in part spurred the Department of Education investigation. Inadequate federal oversight procedures failed to keep track of funding coming into the United States from abroad, and universities failed to report more than $3 billion given by Qatar and the Gulf states. The bulk of Middle Eastern donations coming into the United States emanates from Qatari donors, 75%, while the Qatar Foundation accounts for virtually all of the donations from Qatar. These funds have a significant impact. Here's where it gets a little dangerous. These funds have a significant impact on universities, especially with regard to attitudes towards Israel. ISCAP's research identified a direct correlation between the funding of universities by Qatar and the Gulf states and the active presence at those universities of groups such as Students for Justice in Palestine, which foster an aggressive anti-Semitic atmosphere on campus. In addition, the ISGAP project assessment found a correlation between funding and the ideological bent of scholarship, including anti-Israel and anti-Zionist sentiment at departments and institutes at some of America's leading universities, publishing houses, and academic professional associations. There is also a disturbing connection between this funding and the silencing of institutes and publications by scholars that are critical of the prevailing ideology. Now you guys see the problem? You say, oh, what's the problem? If Qatar wants to send billions of dollars to U.S. universities, what's the problem? Let them send money. That's great. Well, that money is not free. As we saw in the video, there's no free lunch. They're not just handing you money for nothing. They're saying it actually has an impact. You have radical groups that seem to take off after Qatar hands piles of cash to these universities that don't even report it properly, and it affects their research. The research changes. Suddenly people start, their scholars, their professors and so on, start cranking out material against Zionism and so on. And people who are on the side of Israel, well, they have to keep their mouths shut. Interesting stuff. No free lunch.
So you're saying we should be Israel first? Is that what you're saying, David?
That's what you're saying, you see. Check this out. But AP, this is what I find hilarious. This is what they accuse Israel of doing, but it's Qatar doing it.
I wish Israel did this, man.
So anti-Semitism has been on the rise at North American universities in recent years as a result of traditional forms of anti-Jewish sentiment on the political right and more modern anti-Zionism promoted by progressives on the left who seek to delegitimize the Jewish people's right to self-determination by advocating a wide-ranging boycott of the state of Israel. Jewish students have been made to feel increasingly unwelcome at institutions of higher learning. This perspective is becoming pervasive within academia. Again, guys, this is long before these protests of the past 2 years. This is long before the October 7th attack. They were already noticing problems with anti-Semitism on these campuses that have received massive funding from Qatar. Qatar is not unique, and neither are those universities. Based on its Follow the Money report, ISGAP found that a number of autocratic Middle Eastern regimes funneled billions of dollars of unreported funding to U.S. universities in order to promote an atmosphere sympathetic to their efforts to demonize Israel on campus. Qatar has long been an important source of funds for the Palestinian terror organization Hamas and has forged relationships with the Islamist groups ranging from the Muslim Brotherhood to the Taliban. At the same time, it maintains an enclave known as Education City on the outskirts of its capital, Doha, which is home to a number of satellite campuses of prominent American universities such as Georgetown, Northwestern, and Cornell. Education City is funded by the Qatar Foundation, which maintains close ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and is linked directly to theologian Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Al-Qaradawi is a leader of the Muslim Brotherhood and Qatari Foundation, holds a prominent position in Education City, and his ideology emanates throughout, from the Al-Qaradawi Center for Research and Modern Thought to the Sheikh Al-Qaradawi Scholarship and other similar programs. Al-Qaradawi is an extremist who has advocated the destruction of America and the Jews. He also calls on all true believers to finish the work of Hitler. He has been a trustee at the Center for Islamic Studies at Oxford University. Qatar's $3 billion in unaccounted funds is the tip of the iceberg. $3 billion is nothing. Foreign funds are coming into the United States to promote certain ideologies, now infiltrating into universities and permeating the most precious institution in our democracy, our education system.
Qaradawi also said that it's good and it's permissible for people to blow themselves up in terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians and whoever gets in the way.
Well, what could go wrong there, AP? Qatar's $3 billion our education system, blah, blah, blah. ISCAP's findings on the paucity of appropriate university compliance with legally mandated disclosure of foreign funds have been echoed by DOE officials testifying before Congress earlier this year. Deputy Secretary of Education Mitchell Zais explained all degree-granting domestic institutions of higher education are covered under Section 117 of the Higher Education Act. There are approximately 3,700 such eligible institutions in the United States, but based on recent reports the department has received, fewer than 3% reported receiving foreign gifts or contracts. So,
Nice.
So they're not reporting this stuff. Anyway, that is why last month's release of preliminary findings in the Department of Education's investigation into foreign funding of American universities is a critical first step in stopping the manipulation of American universities and the students they teach.
And why do people have a problem with this? Just because they want to push Islamist ideas and are working together with Islamist organizations and movements that are anti-West and anti-human rights and all that. So what? What's the problem?
There is no problem, AP. There's never a problem with anything. But guys, so Qatar isn't on people's radar because they're not running out, oh, we'll slaughter you all in the name of Allah. They're planning very carefully for the future revival of the Caliphate, and they're doing it with piles of money. But their investments, so that you have funding a mosque. That's not an investment in terms of you're going to get tons of money back, although you might get some back from zakat or something like that for your Caliphate down the road. The funding of the universities, these are for other purposes, but they're also massive investors in various businesses around the world. I mean, everywhere. China, Europe, America.
China.
Huge investments in businesses, which means they're making money back. They're making money back. Piles and piles of money coming in. And who are these guys connected to? They're connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to worry about here. Fun stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Fun stuff going on. What are we, stupid? It's to the point where I'm like, gosh, guys, if you want to be subjugated this bad, you deserve it. You just deserve it.
That's how I've been thinking for a while now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need our own little country that just goes and minds its own business as the rest of the world
Blows itself.
Sells itself to Islam. Sells itself to Islam. So, guys, again, there's a link to the video on X. That is the video from Visegrad that we watched earlier. Be sure to share that. What you don't want to be is someone who ignores the problem until it's massively too late. Got to be on top of all this stuff. AP thinks it's already too late. I'm the classic optimist. Everything is always going to work out for my good.
In movies, sure, yeah.
All right, let's take these last couple super chats, then we'll be out. Tamim, Amir of Qatar, Khamenei, Erdogan equals trinity of evil Islamo-Nazi dictators. Is that true or is that racist?
It's pretty powerful.
That's weird because we know AP never, ever, ever wants to speak against his hero, Erdogan. Muslims, e.g. hijab, argue the speed or size of the caliphate's rise is unexplainable without divine support. Is it explainable?
Watch the video that I watched the video of him arguing that against Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson then asking, so then why did it stop at the borders of Europe? And Mohammed Hijab then goes, well, because it wasn't successful there.
Didn't work there. No, guys, in reality, you had the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire attacking each other for a long time, massively weakened their empires. And then the Arabs came out believing that that they will spend an eternity in paradise, deflowering virgins if they just keep fighting to the point where they're dying and so on. If they achieve martyrdom. And yeah, these guys fought and fought and fought. Very weakened areas and empires until they ran into some people who stopped them. And then the advance of Islam stopped there. So I just have to say, for people who say this is unexplainable without divine support, I mean, explain how communism spread even more rapidly. I would also say, and I made a video on this a long time ago. If you want to say that's miraculous, no, a military going over and taking over a large amount of territory very rapidly is not the strangest thing in the world. Look at Alexander the Great. Look at all sorts of other groups that did it. I mean, Alexander did it. Alexander did it in a few years. He conquered from Europe all the way over to India. So that was even more rapid than Islam. But if you want to talk about miraculous, no, a guy rising up and rallying a bunch of people around him and going around conquering it does not require something miraculous. Christianity, by contrast, that's a different story. There's preaching and so on. And matter of fact, preaching a message and then spreading rapidly, that doesn't require anything miraculous. But if you look at how early Christianity actually spread, why it took off and why the Roman Empire couldn't stop it, it's actually interesting. And it's all tied to everything that happened before it. So in the Torah, you had the three big festivals that any Jew who could was supposed to go up to Jerusalem to gather for this festival and so on. But in the meantime, the Jews get conquered by the Assyrians, and then the Assyrians deport a bunch of them to various places. The Jews get conquered by the Babylonians, and the Babylonians deport a bunch of them to different locations.
It's actually Babylon.
The Jews get conquered by a bunch of different groups, and sometimes some of them would come back, and sometimes they would have communities in different places. So you have lots of Jews in like Alexandria. You have lots of Jews in various places. You have Jews in Rome, Jews all over the place. So you have Jews that are Jewish communities all over the place, and those who could would try to come back for the festivals if they could. And so that's just the way things set up. You have the teachings, hey, get together for these festivals when you can. If you're physically and financially able, get together for these festivals. And you have Jewish communities from all over the known world at that point. And when is Jesus crucified? He's crucified around the time of the Passover, when you would have had tons and tons of Jews from all over the place gathered together. That's when Jesus is crucified, and that's where news of his resurrection starts spreading. His followers start saying, this guy rose from the dead and appeared to us. Then when does the church start? When does the Holy Spirit descend? Pentecost, Festival of Pentecost, when people would have been gathered together again. And it's interesting, you can read in the book of Acts, when the Spirit descends on the people, there were Jews gathered from all over the known world at that time. Let me just read this little bit real quick.
You see, the Jews did it.
You see, it was the Jews. Check this out. So I'll just read here. This is Acts 2, when the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place, the local small group of Christians. Suddenly, a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. So they start speaking in different languages. Verse 5, now there were staying in Jerusalem God-fearing Jews from every nation under heaven. When they heard this sound, a crowd came together in bewilderment because each one heard their own language being spoken. Utterly amazed, they asked, aren't all these who are speaking Galileans? They're from Galilee. Then how is it that each of us hears them in our own native language? Parthians, Medes, and Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya near Cyrene, visitors from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs, we hear them declaring the wonders of God in our own tongues. Amazed and perplexed, they asked one another, what does this mean? So here's what you actually had. A bunch of people convert to Christianity after that. All these people who had come up for the festival from their Jewish communities spread all across the known world. And then a bunch of them stay behind in Jerusalem to learn from the apostles. So they spend a couple of years learning from the apostles. They're learning from the apostles. And that's when you had, remember, people going and selling their property to support the Christian community. They're like selling their stuff. Like Barnabas sells some stuff and then gives it to the community. They were doing that because these guys had come from other places and they're in Jerusalem. This is not where they live. It's not where they lived. So in order to support the Christian community from all over the world, people are selling property to support them. Right? So you need some stuff. You need some socks. No problem. We'll take care of you. We'll get you some socks and so on. So then these people spend the next couple of years learning about Jesus from the apostles. Then what happens? A huge persecution breaks out, and it says, also in the book of Acts, it says, so they all went back to where they came from. What did you just have instantly? You had a bunch of Christians who spent a couple years learning at the feet of the apostles, going back to all these major cities across the known world, and then going back and preaching the gospel. That is why when the persecution broke out, and eventually when it became a persecution by the Roman Empire actually couldn't stop it. It spread too far, too fast. And I would say when you tie all that together, I would say if you wanted to say there's something miraculous, an army marching out and conquering a bunch of places that were weakened is not terribly impressive. When you look at how Christianity spread really rapidly and it's connected to festivals and to the land of Israel being repeatedly conquered and ending up with populations of Jews across the world, and how this all ends up being for the spread of the gospel. I don't know. That if I were to say something is miraculous, I would look at that, how everything tied together. Those are my thoughts.
So all of that was just for that point.
That very, very awesome, powerful point. Yes, it was.
Nice.
And it was
I want to say,
I
would suggest one reading. I would suggest one book. Not that I read books myself. Andrew Tate said reading books is gay and for losers. So I don't read any books.
You don't want to do
that. But for those who do read, who are losers, there is a book by Robert G. Hoyland, which is called In God's Path, in which he very nicely analyzes and deals with the idea that the spread of Islam was extraordinary and miraculous and all that, and he basically pretty much debunks the idea that it was miraculous, and depicts it as actually quite normal and natural under the circumstances, and also adds to that just like in the 7th century Islam spread, or the Arab nations or the Arab tribes spread and then eventually came together and turned it into the Islamic Empire, other tribal peoples were spreading and conquering all the time. And especially from the northeast, from Asia, from the steppes and so on, different tribes came and conquered in a far more impressive way than the Arabs did. The Arabs just came at a very opportune time. You could call it a good coincidence, if anything. The Mongol expansions were much more, significantly more extraordinary and miraculous, if you want to call it that. So this is really not a very big point for Islam. Plus, it also pretty much shows that Islam spread by the sword.
And it did. But this really ties into this issue of this massive cherry picking where they'll ignore everything and zero in on the one thing that can be used for some sort of argument for Islam, and they'll fixate on that. And then you point out, okay, well, if that's your evidence, then will you apply it to all these other situations? No, never.
No.
Never crossed their minds to apply that to anything else that meets the exact same requirements. It's weird stuff. AP, we might need to, we should go through your video on that, and then you should talk about the book, because as we've discussed previously, as their arguments are exposed and debunked and then abandoned, they circle back to arguments from years ago that people have forgotten about because they stopped using them years ago. So anyway, we have to kind of circle back and go through all these arguments that we thought were just completely destroyed a long time ago.
Which video?
You just said your video responding to that thing. That the hijab one?
Oh, no. That was just a clip from their interview. But yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Revisit that and then talk about the stuff that's in the book.
Yeah, possibly. I also had an interview with Robert G. Hoyland. I also had him on my channel and had an interview with him.
Come on.
The audio was kind of bad, but he was on, and he's a very nice guy. I still want to invite him on for another conversation sometime in the future.
Where's he live?
I don't know, somewhere in America.
You should just go there and interview him, and then you'd have awesome audio.
Yeah.
Let's see. Qatar is actually Wahhabi, not Muslim Brotherhood, but they are indeed funding and supporting them everywhere else. The Emir of Qatar is a snake. That is pretty racist. This is the year for squashing beefs. So AP, where is your testicular fortitude? Be the bigger man and invite apostate Al-Din and squash that beef.
He can squash his own beef. I'm not going to do that.
You heard it here, folks. Apostate Al-Din has extended an olive branch. AP has rejected it. Many people I speak to support the idea of bring back the British Empire to stop the spread of Islamism around the world. I still believe there are all kinds of things the West can do. Bringing back the British Empire, that's when I'll say too late. That's when I'll say too late.
Like bring back a comedy club, pretty much. The Brits right now to be the British Empire.
They can't defend London. You think they're going to take over the world? They can't defend any. They can't defend any of their major cities. You think they're going to go out and take on the world?
They just get drunk and that's it.
Yeah, that's all they do. Super chat, no comment from Art though. And finally, we have Mumu Joe. How do we know these Jews converted and did not just follow it as an extension of Judaism? Was it simple as that you, whether a Jew or believe Jesus was the Son of God, did Jesus say he was not a Jew? Oh, we've pointed out before, like when you're talking about conversion that early, it's conversion to believing Jesus is the Messiah. You believe that you're following. The apostles did not think of themselves as starting some new religion. The apostle Paul did not think of himself as going around starting a new religion. They thought Jesus is the fulfillment of everything the Jewish people have been waiting for. And so you eventually end up with just treating it as two completely different things. But no, back then, you were converting to following Jesus as the Messiah. That's what you're converting to. But that spread very, very rapidly. And it ended up becoming more divided because it became increasingly focused more on Gentiles. So you're dealing with people who just have no Jewish customs. And over time, it became...
Did you just say more on Gentiles? Did you just say more on Gentiles?
Yeah, Gentiles are moron. That's why they're called Goyim. And we just talked about this the other day when we were going through the debate between Rabbi Tovia Singer and Dr. Michael Brown. Because Michael Brown was pointing out that the reason there's such a gulf between Christians and Jews is kind of the fault of both sides, in that there are Jews and Jewish rabbis who, if you say you follow the Messiah, there are Jewish rabbis who think you're fine. They still, what was it? Rebecca told us that something like 20% of Jewish rabbis or something like that believe that you can follow Jesus and still be an Orthodox Jew.
I looked at it as well. It's still an internal debate. The majority says that at this point, if you do follow Jesus, you are no longer Jewish. But others still say, well, you are still a Jew. So.
Yeah. So the majority position is, if you say, hey, I'm going to follow Jesus, it's okay. We're separating from you. So on the one side, that would cause division, right? And hey, get away from us. We're not part of you anymore. And on the other side, you ended up with a Christianity that sort of lost any connection with its Jewish roots, and so they have no idea what the connection is. So kind of both sides led to a more divided group. But back then, it would have been, hey, you're following Jesus as the Messiah. You believe that he died on the cross for sins and rose from the dead. And anyway, that spread really.
Yeah,
really
there are some weirdos who suggest Kim was also one of those. Kim Iverson also recently was one of those who said, Christians are different. They're no longer Jewish because they believe the Messiah has already come and you can't believe them. That's not true. That's completely nonsense. The early Christians were considered Jews, although they followed Jesus as the Messiah. They still went to the synagogue. They still went to the temple. They were welcomed. They were treated as Jews. They were still seen as Jews. And following Jesus as the Messiah alone would be no reason at all for them to be rejected as Jews. Believing that the Messiah has already come or is here or has passed is no reason to not be counted a Jew. What caused problems and division early on, and what caused the Christian community to basically leave the synagogues, basically was more so the beliefs that came with believing that Jesus is the Messiah, not the fact that Jesus is the Messiah alone. You can't totally believe that the Messiah is here.
You've had tons of Jews who've believed in people that other Jews would reject as the Messiah. There have been Jews who have followed all kinds of messiahs. It would just be weird to say, hey, if you ever followed the wrong Messiah, then you're not a Jew anymore. You're throwing out lots of Jews down through history.
In fact, the Jewish idea is that in every generation, it is expected that the Messiah is here, pretty much. Whenever you're alive, there is always the possibility that the Messiah is there, and so speculations on that have been going around forever. Nobody is seen as a non-Jew just because they believe in one Messiah, which the others don't accept.
All right. And Bo Rudder says, is Qatar driving up housing prices? Someone is.
It's actually me.
Because houses used to be massively cheap compared to what they've been for the past couple of years. I don't know what's going on there. And Candace O versus Babylon B. Twitter spat. Hilarious. Oh, that might be a topic to cover in a live stream because that one's been going on. That was actually funny stuff. Yeah, so we might need to cover that or at least go through some of that.
She started crying because they made fun of her.
Which, with a pretty, like she'd already won Anti-Semite of the Year, and they just toss one little jab at her, and then her and her fans.
She's like, I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying it's not even funny.
It's not even funny.
It is funny.
It was funny. We agree, and we are better experts on comedy than Candace. Oh, all right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Hope everyone starts paying a little bit of attention to Qatar. AP will be on your channel tomorrow. Do you know what we're covering yet, or is that yet to come?
We are to be live tomorrow. I do kind of want to do something fun tomorrow.
Candace.
And look into the Christmas meltdown that Muslims had. It's a Christmas meltdown.
I was thinking it's too late. Christmas is past, but you also have Orthodox Christmas coming up, so we're right in the middle of the Christmases. So I think you're on safe ground talking about Christmas.
Did you just say? Oh yeah, okay, yes, that's true. That's
right in the middle of the Christmases.
That's true. Inshallah, because the meltdown that Muslims had over Christmas was just funny. It was amazing. I loved it.
It's funny. They have a meltdown every year. It's always funny. Okay. All right, guys. So tomorrow, it's always possible that AP would change his mind or that something happens that changes the topic and so on. But we may be covering the Christmas meltdown, and then we'll have super dope stuff on Sunday on my channel. And then we'll go, we'll have to have something awesome on AP's channel on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we'll have a super fun time. Get everyone together who wants to tell us what their highlights were. We will be covering the scandals. We will be covering the Dawa wars. We will be covering the Dawa meltdowns of this year. It'll be super based and a good start.
Powerful.
To next year. All right. See you next time.
See you next year.